You sure about this? We could get into trouble. That's how you know it's an adventure.
My life was taught me happy endings only happen in the movies.
The story's not over yet.
Recording.
Now.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Waffle Press Retrospectives Failed Blockbusters Season 3, Episode 7. I'm pretty sure it's Episode 7. Hugo. We're talking about Martin Scorsese's Hugo. We're talking about a Martin Scorsese movie today. It's kind of a big deal.
Diego,
Some might call him...
would you shut the fuck up already? I want to talk about VTubers again.
No.
We're going to
No.
this conversation, and I swear to God it will be related to the film Hugo, which we are here to talk about.
How, my co-host Matt Garingo?
You will, yes, that's me. You will be amazed at what is about to happen here. And the audience will be as well. I think we're about to make podcasting history, frankly.
Okay.
No, that's not true at all. But I do want to talk about this. So, I don't even remember. Do you remember what episode it was where I derailed it the first time talking about VTubers?
I am 90% sure it was Mimic.
No. That was
like the very first one ever?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of I did it like a year or two ago, right? Like,
I think it was 3 at this point. I think it was like 2020 because like early pandemic brain just like broke all of us.
It must have been pandemic because that was when like it was kind of like an unavoidable topic online because so many people shit got big. So like you know me, I get fascinated with weird subcultures online.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, the recommendations in my feeds tend to get pretty fucked up. And weird shit flows to the top. I'm not sure if you can relate in any way. Whereas...
Oh,
it unfortunately almost always leads to reactionary content at some point, which should say something about how poorly programmed these algorithms are.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're aware of this, Diego, but at the time of recording, we are still in the middle of... has it officially become the longest-lasting writer's strike in Hollywood history?
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah. And if it's not now, I'll just say it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's still going on. It's very clear that it should be over by this point, but the fucking studios are stupid. Like, it seems like they can't get their shit in order to get the shit.
Yeah, I'll just say really quick, that is what the problem is. It's just the studios don't like each other on a regular basis. Why are they gonna fucking... Yeah, so they have to make individual studios make deals because they're not gonna get them all together because they're fucking stupid.
Hilarious, but...
It is very funny if it wasn't like ruining people's lives.
Yeah, there's that angle to it, of course.
Yeah, there's kind of the angle, but go ahead.
Well,
not to derail your derailment.
I have another angle that maybe people didn't consider. So I was, I've been watching shit about like SAG and the writer's strike and stuff like that, and I'm scrolling, and like my feed is just nonsense, as you can maybe imagine, of just like what the algorithm thinks I might be into. And occasionally something like, you can tell it's like a VTuber thing because it's like there's like an anime character that like you don't recognize as the thumbnail. And occasionally that stuff floats up. And now the algorithm, like Google, I think there's a lot of stuff lately about how fucked up Google is where like now you can't get any results that are actually worth a damn. So like I will be watching stuff I'll be looking up stuff that has nothing to do with the topic, and weird shit still floats. I'll be looking up shit about like the fucking Prussian Wars and shit like that, and get weird like videos about, I don't know, Baldur's Gate 3, which because I watched some Baldur's Gate 3 videos, and I'm scrolling, and you just kind of like you brush past some stuff, and you go like, well, that's clearly not for me, blah. And I scroll past one. It's very clearly a VTuber thing. I don't recognize it. And I scroll past it really quick, but as like half a second, I catch the image that is being used for this stream, right?
Right.
And it's someone holding a bullhorn, and it says, the video says, charity stream, actors and writers on strike. I was like, what? I'm like, this is actually related to what I'm looking up, and I'm confused. And I look, and it's a 12-hour stream this person did 12 hours. And I'm like,
Wow. That's
what is this? And I click on it, and it is a VTuber, and it's a VTuber by the name of Vox Akuma. It's a male VTuber. I am unfamiliar with them, but they apparently have over 1 million subscribers. This motherfucker raised nearly $50,000 for the SAG after strike, and no one's
wow.
talking about it. And I'm like, well, now I have to like. Well, first I was like, all right, yes, it's charity, but like, what is this person's angle, right? Like, because some people, they're supporting the strike, but they seem to not totally get what the strike's about, right? Like, they kind of just hate
Hmm.
Hollywood. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, well, now I gotta fucking watch this stupid video. And I watch this, and the guy does like all right. It was just an odd experience watching. Like, I just never thought these two worlds would cross over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a guy
That's
doing a video talking shit about AI, and then calling out people like Bob Iger by name, and saying stuff like, "Do you hear what these motherfuckers are saying?" Like, he didn't say it like that, but he was like, "Do you hear what these guys are saying? They're saying they're trying to make these writers lose their houses." And he's like, "That's some evil shit." And I'm like, I did not realize how mainstream the whole strike had gone. That like this person was talking about that to their followers. Again, like this person has over 1 million subscribers, and this stream in particular has 163,000 views. And I don't know if that was like the live watch or like if that's just people watching the recording of it, but and it this person, they look like, I think they're a demon.
what?
I don't know what it is. The drawing, because they're like anime people, like they're cartoon people, right?
Oh, right, right,
Uh,
right. I guess.
they're not real. So, well, I mean, there's a real person behind it, obviously, but I don't know what they all got like gimmicks, right? Like, I don't know, but he's
Right.
like
Yeah.
pale. I thought he was a vampire at first, but that was the gimmick. Um, and so, first of all, one, this is officially the first VTuber I am actually following for real.
Oh. Oh
Because
boy.
also it led me down a rabbit hole. So then here's the next two things I find. One, I find he does a stream where he talks about his favorite movies, right? And we'll circle back to
Hmm.
that one. So I'm like, okay, this guy's like a film fan, right?
Right.
And then of course that the most dreadful video I ever saw. The title, which when you read it, it fills you with existential dread, comes up, and it says, uh, "Vox Akuma on the Last Jedi." And when you see something like
Oh
that, you're like,
no.
"Oh no, what's this gonna be?" Guess what though? He's a Last Jedi defender.
All right. I like
Yeah,
this guy.
exactly. So I'm like, "Oh Jesus, like what the fuck?" Like I didn't expect this to happen. But now I'm gonna give you. This is gonna be. I gotta read you his favorite movies of all time list, right? Because
Okay.
it's like a hug and then like a sucker punch and then like it's like a high five and then a kick to the groin. Like this guy's all over the place.
I might respect that, but go
But I
ahead.
should say, I think the guy is a lot younger than we are, right? So I don't want to
Hmm.
judge him too harshly because I feel like we would have had similar opinions back in like a decade ago. I'm trying to think about young cinephile Matt and what his favorite movies of all
Yeah.
time were. Um, that being said, uh, he, I'm like check again. Yeah, only one movie on his list is before the year 2000.
Yeah. That's usually how it
Yeah,
goes for that
all
age.
right.
So that's fine.
No,
I'm
no.
not
Hey,
upset about
we all got to
that.
start somewhere, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're not. They're mostly good movies. He ain't listening, so I don't have to worry about talking shit. So, here's his top 10 movies. He did a whole stream on this, so like, I guess people are interested. His number 10 choice, Marriage Story. You know,
Okay. Yeah. I like that movie. Yeah.
number
Yeah.
9, The Lighthouse.
All
Yeah,
right.
I think we're
Okay.
both like right on with The Lighthouse, right? Buckle up. Number 8, Mother. The
You know what?
Aronofsky
Sure.
Mother.
Sure. Why not?
I
Not for me, but I know a lot of people vibe with that.
Number 7, Under the Skin.
Okay. I love
That
that
guy's got a new
movie.
movie coming out this year, right? Like people are kind of
Yeah. It's like a Holocaust
that'll
drama, though, so it's going to be fucking
that'll be
miserable.
fun to watch.
Not that his other stuff is, like,
No, Under the
rapturous
Skin, one of my
either.
favorite
But,
uplifting films. Um,
yeah.
number
Or
6,
Sexy Beast.
number 6, and this might also number 6 might be a reason why I decided to follow this person. Their number 6 choice is Old Boy. So there
Okay.
you
Yeah, I
go.
know.
I told you Old Boy would come up in our text messages.
I know. I
But
know. I did not expect it like
here's gonna
this.
be the swift kick to the head for you though. His number 5 choice was Swiss Army Man.
What? Like, I guess.
I'll just say this: listening to him talk about it, it sounds like Swiss Army Man. Some of the subject matter in it might have been very personal to them. So I don't wanna get a little
Okay.
too dunking on him for that. And I don't even hate that movie,
Uh-huh.
but
Yeah, yeah. I like the follow up a
yeah.
lot, which I know
I
is
think
divisive
at
now,
the
but
time of this
whatever.
recording, because this is like the one stream of his. I haven't finished his SAG after thing because it's fucking 12 hours long. I'm slowly making
Yeah.
my way through it, and I did listen to the movie when he did though, and I think he made it right around the time Everything Everywhere All at Once had just come out, so it's about like a year ago. This video, so.
hmm
Um, his number 4 choice, the oldest film on the list, 2001: A Space Odyssey. So, you know,
Okay.
that's a classic of cinema. If I was his age, I probably had the same choice. 2001 probably would have made my top 10.
Mm.
Although, how do you feel about Kubrick? I don't think we've ever talked about that.
I love Kubrick. He's not like a top tier guy for me, but like
Yeah, yeah.
he's also great. Like I don't feel that even the way I feel about Old Boy with his movies. Where I'm like, yeah, it's not for me. Like I think like The Killing might be my favorite
Oh,
though.
that's a wild choice. Like,
Actually, no,
I
I'm full of shit. It is 2001. 2001 was like
I know
life
all
changing.
the hipster choice right now is Barry Lyndon, right? Like.
Yeah, great movie, great
Now
fucking
I could
movie.
totally see myself embracing Barry Lyndon in a few
Yeah,
as my favorite, but
yeah.
yeah, right now it's Doctor Strangelove. But it is one of those where like I feel like every 5 years I have a different favorite Kubrick, which could say
Yeah.
something about yourself.
Yeah. For a while, for me, just since we're on the topic, it was Eyes Wide
Yeah,
Shut. I love
but I
Eyes
think
Wide
I,
Shut.
I had a similar thing where like I don't know if it was number 1, but Eyes Wide Shut is one of those where because it kind of had a bad reputation for a while, you know. Like I feel like
hmm
that's gone now, but I remember like 10 years ago at least it was still a divisive movie, and you watch it
Yeah. Well, I
and
mean,
you're like, no, this is great. Like, what are people talking about? And you feel like
yeah.
Barry Lyndon, a similar thing where it was kind of like people were kind of like, that's the boring Kubrick movie, which is saying something. But
I know. Like, because if you think one of them's boring, I got some bad
yeah,
news for you about the rest. I don't know. I think Eyes Wide Shut kind of has a thing where like Other Side of the Wind has more extremely that later film, obviously, right? Because they both were completed without their
yeah,
directors. And obviously, again, Other Side of the Wind to a much more monumental degree without having Orson Welles around. But I think that does kind of put like a stink on those movies for like the more hardcore cinephile types, where they're like, well, the director wasn't involved. It's like, well, the movie got released. I don't know. It's a victory to
yeah.
me. So
That's
I don't know.
whatever. But all right,
No.
back. We got only 3 more. Number 3, Phantom Thread, the PTA film. Yeah,
Whoa.
which
Fuck
they could
yeah.
not. They were very effusive in their talking about Phantom Thread. I should say that. And I guess they did what's called a watch along, which is it's just a recording of themselves, and if you time it correctly they can watch the movie, like their commentary can overlay the movie, right? Like we've done commentaries, but it's a little different than that. So he's very
Mhm.
he's very interested in introducing this movie to his fans, I guess is what I'm saying. Now number 2, so this is the movie that dethroned Phantom Thread. This is Whiplash.
All right. That's the Damien Chazelle one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I feel like Whiplash is kind of like Drive for younger people, you know?
Yeah, it's only a couple years later, but yes, I know exactly
But I
what you
feel like
mean.
it kind of had that weird staying power where like it's like that was a gateway drug for a lot of people.
Hmm.
Also, I will say in the stream they talk about A24 a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that seems to be the the cool
Yeah.
brand for people who want to get into movies and are starting to, and that's fine.
Hey,
That's
as
fine.
long as people are watching movies, man, A24 puts out some
Yeah,
great
yeah,
shit. So, and then
yeah.
their number one choice, "Call Me by Your Name." Yeah,
Whoa.
hey, it's a
Yeah,
choice. I like that movie,
I do too.
but
You
it's
know, there's stuff in
yeah,
there.
yeah. No, hey, look, like I cannot judge a guy put Old Boy on his list if I like. Hey, Call Me
Yeah,
by Your
yeah,
Name's
yeah.
got some iffy stuff in it, like it's. But I just had to read that because it does feel similar to a list I might have made, not with those movies specifically, but uh,
Yeah, in the similar vein, I think that's a very Matt
yeah,
list.
10 years ago, like if
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
budding cinephile version of me. Um, so it was a weird like this is a man after my own heart like moment of just like that with the Last Jedi defending, with then this guy being out there being like fuck Bob Iger and like seemed to have like pretty good knowledge of like the realities of the SAG after strike, which I didn't believe. And I was just shocked that like a guy did this and like it kind of flew under the radar. Like
Hmm.
that this guy he did manage to raise nearly $50,000 for yeah the WGA SAG after strike action. Um, so it's kind of crazy. And I didn't hear a thing about it. Like I feel like we're hearing stuff like this all the time. And like there's that problem of like influencers not totally getting the strike, right? Like
Hmm. Oh boy, is there.
but I feel like we're a little too focused on those dopes as opposed to maybe that there are a lot of people out there that really seem to get it. And in a way that I was shocked by, right?
I think you're right.
Like aren't like it's a little
Yeah.
surprising. And maybe it's just my cynical nature, but like I did not expect. I was even I was talking to people the other day who like basically in every other instance would be anti-union, right? Like
Hmm.
real conservative types, and they're even on the writer's side. Like it's kind of crazy. It seems to be the AI thing. The AI thing I think is rubbing people the wrong way. Like no one
Hmm.
seems happy about the idea of people losing their jobs to artificial intelligence. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
but I bring this all up in the fucking Hugo episode because it in a weird way, falling down this rabbit hole again, it got me thinking about film preservation and budding
Ah.
art forms. Uh, did
Hmm.
you see what's it the documentary the story of film, an Odyssey? Um,
No, I
the
have not.
12-part series that guy did. It's pretty good. Goes over the history of film and stuff like that, and it like shines lights on like stuff that maybe at the time wasn't as recognized. Uh,
Hmm.
there's a part in it where when film started, a lot of it was just like the ladies leaving the factory footage, right? Like or the
Right,
train coming
right.
to the screen, which is referenced in Hugo directly, and it was seen as this maybe passing fad that like these moving images. And the guy in the documentary story of film, he brings up like, it was just a gimmick at first, and he showed. Have you ever seen those things they can do? I know they do it at like Disney World, but they do it all over the place where you can project lights onto a building, right? I don't know how this
Hmm.
technology works, but you can project lights onto a building, and it can make it look like the building is moving. Have you ever seen this stuff? Um,
I not 100% sure, but what I'm seeing is like in my head the building is moving. You're saying
it
like they're
it
like there's designs on the building that
it
move.
no the designs of the movie, it looks like the it's like a weird optical illusion where just for like for sake of brevity, it looks like the building is almost dancing, like swaying back and forth. It,
No, then I'm not familiar.
if you ever go to Disney World, I don't know if they do it anymore, but like I went like I don't know, like 10 years ago or whatever. I remember them doing that.
Mhm.
Although I don't remember them doing it. I went on a more recent trip, and I don't remember them doing it. So maybe they just stopped. But it made it. They would project it onto the castle for the fireworks show, and it would look like the castle was kind of moving at times. And
Okay.
it like there was a part like I think they did like a Buzz Lightyear thing, and it looks like one of the towers like takes up like launches into space like a rocket. I remember
Mhm.
that, and it looks pretty cool. Like it's pretty cool. Obviously the building isn't moving at all. It's just this weird optical illusion you can do with like projectors and stuff. And the guy in the documentary was like, "This is a gimmick right now, but who knows? This could be an art form later, right? Like right now we're using
Yeah.
this technology for all sorts of gimmicky stuff, but it could be an art form." X number of years. And right now, everyone that's working on this stuff, they are essentially pioneers, right? And we don't know. Like it could
Mhm.
be a thing. It could be something that we just totally forget about that gets usurped by a different, better technology. It could have no practical use whatsoever beyond the gimmicky, right?
Mhm.
I feel like VR is in a similar boat right now, where the VR goggles they're kind of just gimmicks. They're not really replacing anything. We're seeing like that's why metaverse isn't taking off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But who knows where that could go? Uh, and you have someone like George Méliès who's like he's essentially a pioneer, right? Like
Mhm.
he's the first guy. He's inventing all this stuff for the first time, and it got me thinking about the VTuber thing because right now it's just a gimmicky weird thing, right? It's just
Right.
but
Right.
like what this could be something in the future. Like what if we're
Mhm.
all doing this in the future? A sort of weird like motion tracking of our bodies while we stream, like while we communicate over Zoom or something like that. It could be a whole new form of expression going forward. And this is partly why I get into weird obscure groups online because it's like this, you know, 99% of the time it's just a weird thing, right? But it could be the
Yeah.
beginnings
Yeah.
of something. And that's what I'm fascinated by. I want to be there on the ground floor and then be like, because we were there when the internet was kind of first getting started. Like online video on the internet, I should say. Uh, like
Yeah.
we think
Yeah.
about, did you ever see the Badger video from back in the day, the Flash animation?
Badger,
Yeah,
badger, badger, badger,
we just
mushroom.
crossed.
Yeah. Wow.
I only brought it up because we just crossed the 20th anniversary of that.
That's fucking
Yeah,
psychotic.
and again,
Good
but the thing,
lord.
like, that's what online video content used to be, and now it's like this whole other realm, right? That people are
Mhm.
actually making like, not that that isn't art, but like that they've like basically taken the ball and run with it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about VTubers in that context of like, is this gonna be something? Is this the beginnings of something? What is this? It's why I get fascinated with like a lot of shit like it. But then so there's this other angle with VTubers, and I don't know if I brought this up, but a lot of like VTuber culture is based on Japanese idol culture, right? And I know the amount I know about idol culture is basically the movie Perfect Blue,
Okay.
which doesn't necessarily portray idol culture in the best of light. But there is a thing in both idol culture and VTubing where when the person essentially stops performing, when they are done with their careers, it is called graduating, right? Which is one of the
Mhm.
things when I learned about it when I was first reading about VTubers, when they're like, yeah, they graduate. I was like, is this a cult? Like, that sounds like some cult shit, right? Like, it sounds like a euphemism for they're gonna be put down. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the sadder thing is they kind of are in a weird way because what happens is, and I don't know if this is true for everyone. These are like the more corporate ones because there's a creepy parasocial thing that goes on with VTubers that bothers me in a lot of ways. That they're owned by a corporation, and when the person behind the character decides they're done and they graduate, what usually happens, unless the person is very popular, what usually happens is all their streams get taken down and
Oh
their
no.
their Twitter accounts get taken down, and they're essentially erased. And this can happen if someone graduates on good terms with the company, where it's just like, hey, I'm just done. Like, I'm retiring. I've done enough. or if like they get fired, right? Like both things happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it
Yeah.
got me thinking that they talk about this age we live in where like 99% of online media probably won't exist 100 years from now, right? And
Yeah.
it just got me thinking of what are we losing when these VTubers graduate, you know? Like I know it's
Mm-hmm.
goofy to take this stuff this seriously, but but how do I phrase it? It's who knows how we could be feeling, like we talk about George Méliès, where like there are so many of his movies that are missing now, right? That like, or not even him, like, or something like, London After Midnight, where we only have like stills of it, and, like a
Yeah.
launch.
I mean, there are literally
Yeah,
countless films from that era that are just lost
yeah, yeah.
forever that we're never
But
getting
there are
back.
some that are like very specifically like totems because like they fit into like narratives of like famous directors' careers, right? Or like
Mm-hmm.
famous actors and stuff like that. And it's like there's a Lon Chaney horror movie that just doesn't exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to think about. And I'm like, well, how are we gonna feel, 50 years from now if like we look back on this era of VTubing, which is either something that has grown stronger in the future or spawned a whole new thing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if it leads to something, but like this, that we look at these people as the pioneers, and it's like, well, what survives of some of these people, and for a
Yeah.
while it might just live in the memories of someone, you know and what happens then, and how are we going to feel about all this? I hate the word content, but it's like all these streams, like is it not something worth preserving in its own right, because
Mm-hmm.
VTubing, it crosses over this weird, it exists in this weird realm of, it's like it's performance, like
Yeah.
it's but it's also like, what would you classify video game streaming as on its own? It's almost like sporting events, right? Like where you watch a football game.
Yeah. Like I don't hate the term
Yeah.
esports. Like I think that's a very appropriate phrase for that. Like chess is technically a sport.
Yeah.
You know, like
But
it's not physical exertion in the same
it's one
capacity
thing
as
it's
soccer,
one thing to
but
watch someone like play, like Street Fighter, right? Like that you watch like, a competitive
mm-hmm.
round of that, which is like very much, yes, that's esports. But what if you're just watching someone, to bring up Vox, because like I'm such an old man, I don't know any of the modern video games, so I was looking for streams of
Mm-hmm.
his that I could maybe actually watch. He did the Donkey Kong Country games, right?
Right, right.
Classify a video of someone just playing Donkey Kong with their commentary over it, you know? What is
Mm-hmm.
that classified as? And like we have streams right now, but it feels almost a little too loose, right?
Yeah,
Streaming
yeah.
applies to so much. And so you have that, and then the layer on top of that, this person who is both being genuine but also giving a performance as a character. And like, is that not an art form in some way, right? And I'm this, it's why I get fascinated by these, this is my weird justification for this stuff. Like it's it's uh it's my version of Werner Herzog being like, you must not avert your eyes, like coming at
Yeah.
us. And like, I'm not that intense into it. Like I said, it's the first person I'm actually following. I just, whoa,
You
I heard a
okay?
weird siren outside. Well, hopefully that was nothing. Uh,
They heard you talk about VTubers and they're like,
Yeah,
stop
the
them.
fucking culture police are after me. I'm trying to make
Yeah.
Also, I'll say this: the next moral panic will be over VTubers. I
You think
I
so?
100% guarantee, because one, this Vox guy, he does a lot of ASMR content. Apparently, I'm not into ASMR, right? Which that
Mm-hmm.
talk about ASMR is its whole other rabbit hole, right? Like
Yeah,
ASMR,
yeah.
do you remember when it just started up and people were just like, they would just like scratch something, right? Some people
Yeah.
were like,
The
yeah,
whispers.
or like but like I don't remember the whispers being there from the start. I remember like this, like the just doing sounds initially, right? And people
Mm-hmm.
being like, "Oh, this does something to me," and I'm like, "The fuck you talking about?" Like, because I've never responded to it that way. And there was that weird debate early on where people were like, "Is this pornography? Like, is ASMR content pornography?" But then it evolved into those whisperings where people are talking to you, and then it straight up evolved into, what are like essentially radio plays online done independently, right? Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's Orson Welles was the first ASMR content creator. Like
Oh hell yeah.
it's
Hell yeah.
and he had that voice. I mean, he would totally do that shit. He had a great voice.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
He doesn't do
yeah,
anything.
exactly. Oh my god. Speaking of which, I get why this Vox guy does ASMR content. He's got a fantastic voice. I get why he's a VTuber. He should do voice
Mm.
acting, but it's so like that's his whole weird thing. But there is so much like talking about this guy being like a demon. There is so much weird satanic imagery in VTubers that are it's clearly character based stuff, right? Like it's just
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's on the level of like fucking Hot Topic, right? Like it's not
Right. Right.
anything
Right.
extreme. But the moment the right wing finds it, they're gonna be like, these people are indoctrinating our children into the dark arts. And then all you have to do is find some clips out of context, and people are gonna freak the fuck out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just warning you, that one's coming. And I hope the fucking VTubers are ready for it, because they're gonna get a fucking wave they aren't ready for. But yeah, I'm just I don't it was so weird. Like these two things happened very coincidentally together, where I discovered this stream and was getting ready for the Hugo episode at the same time, and I was shocked to find all this overlap. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. Am I crazy for thinking about this stuff? Like I just
No, you're not. I haven't thought specifically about the VTuber angle, but you've introduced that to me, and I've not looked into it any further. I just kind
yeah
of like take the hits as they come when you're explaining it. But I have thought about like the loss of like
yeah.
Vine and then there's TikTok right now. TikTok is the thing now basically, which I have casually used on occasion, mostly just to defend Christopher Nolan for being British.
What?
That's his big flaw. Yeah, it's a whole thing. But don't worry about it. But
That's
like
fucking
I
the
thought about
VTubers.
it was just one video. I thought it was funny that people were responding to Christopher Nolan like saying Roderick
Oh
rules, and then people were like, why the fuck does he know that? But like so many people there do like so many like the fan edits and stuff like that, or like what was the old version of that on YouTube with the anime
um,
AMVs? Is
I
that
think that
it?
was the name. Yeah, it sounds
Okay, yeah, but it's like that. That is
yeah.
editing. That is like you're practicing the art form. You don't originate the material, but you are doing something with that. You are like learning an art
Well, yeah,
form. That is a thing you are doing. You are becoming an
even beyond
artist.
that, which
And
is
I
more like remix culture, right? Of like taking that stuff, like so
yeah.
much of early Vine and now TikTok matched like early like vaudevillian silent films. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's incredible. And again, it is like this like, what are we gonna lose? And
Yeah.
it's
And I think, the commodification of art and like the overwhelming narrative of content versus
yeah.
like storytelling or artists online, especially in these platforms, is a real shame because it's like I don't like look, whatever, I don't keep up with all the trends and stuff, but like the kids are learning shit. People are not even kids, like people are learning shit online all the time. Like they're learning how to do new things and techniques and finding like a
And the cool
voice
thing
through
is,
these
a lot of the
things.
times they might not even realize they're learning something. Just doing,
Yes, exactly.
which is really the best way to learn. And but it's fascinating, and I just wonder, like, who knows, the next great filmmaker might spawn out of Vine, right? I mean, not or not even
Yeah.
Vine, just
Oh,
TikTok,
TikTok.
like, and then who
Yeah.
knows if their content will even exist like 50 years from now? Like, what if the next Kubrick is like huge, and then it's like, well, they were a Vine, they made Vine videos back in the day, but Vine doesn't exist anymore, and now like three of their Vines were preserved. We know they
Hmm.
made like hundreds, and I think about it a lot, and I feel silly that I think about it so much.
I don't think it's silly at all to think about that. I think these are conversations we should be
I think
having.
I
Like,
just happen to pick the
obviously,
cringe version of it, which is the VTuber thing.
a little bit. But I mean, yeah, it's totally related to like George Mellies and like so many other silent era artists who've lost their work to time and much more, as we will discuss with the rest of the Hugo episode. It's not just the passage of time and its lack of care. It's fascism, it's
A
capitalism,
lot of it,
and those same things are occurring right now
and
as
that's the
well.
weird thing about like VTubers in general is that it is such a content-driven thing, which is like it makes me wonder. It's like would VTubers not even exist without this like content need? Like I guess it's clearly profit-driven, right? Like a lot of these people are
Yeah.
they're essentially manufactured by corporations in the same way idols are, and so like would this not even exist without capitalism? But then beyond that, I'm like, but then maybe it would, but like, what is being held back right now because of capitalism? Like what? Maybe this could flourish into something really great if we didn't have to worry about those things. And yeah, it's and it's all over the place right now. And you see these shifting trends, and it's worrisome what isn't getting preserved. And I do wonder though, like where is the line, if there even is one, because you see like now there's that thing on Letterboxd where who's that guy that does like the sports statistics documentaries on YouTube? Like I'm not a sports guy,
Oh, I
so
don't actually know.
he his videos keep getting listed on Letterboxd, and people are like, this is secretly one of the best documentaries of the year. Like.
Oh.
And like the people like really rave about it, and I'm like, well, why does that guy get on but not other videos? And I get why Letterboxd can't just let all online videos on there, because the site would basically become unusable if you did that.
Yeah.
But I do wonder where that line is. I mean, my favorite film of whatever year it was released was the Charlie the Unicorn finale. That
I remember
it's my
this.
number one movie of the year, and it's not. I can't log it on Letterboxd for whatever reason. Like it's not considered a film.
Letterboxd, get on that.
It's strange. I don't know why. Again, it's so arbitrary. I mean, entire seasons of anime are on there, but like some movies aren't. It's strange. All of that was a long way of saying I'm like Michael Stolberg in this movie.
Oh.
I'm gonna write a book on these VTubers.
You should. I want to write a book on Bad Boy 2.
They died during the war. It's like, no, it's actually my uncle. Oh. That would be interesting.
That would be interesting. I think it'd be something.
What war? Both.
See, there's stuff to talk about.
There's a lot of stuff happening. Oh, by the way, we're recording on 9/11.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit, that's right. Yeah, I almost forgot.
Yeah.
This is basically like the most important holiday for this podcast.
Yes, exactly.
What did Ethan tweet this morning? He's like, "You there? What day is it?"
Yeah, it's fucking Christmas Carol. I think Abby did the same joke a year ago. Like I remember that being one.
Oh, Abby, Ethan stealing your valor.
Oh shit! Abby has the locked account. I can't share any of her funny shit anymore. So.
Yeah, but she's smarter than the rest of us. That's why she has a locked account.
Yeah. But hey, just be like me and have the private account where I shit talk people.
I can't do that. I don't shit talk anymore though. I've really dialed it back.
Diego, would you believe it? Sometimes I just cannot keep my anger in check.
You know.
I don't know if you picked up on that from me, but sometimes
I caught a glance.
I just gotta shit talk.
Just a glimpse.
So I feel perfectly comfortable shit talking David Fincher on Maine these days.
Oh yeah, that's very funny.
How did that happen? How did
I don't know.
What's going on with that guy?
I don't know. I hear The Killers is pretty good.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't know. I'll always have Alien 3.
You see, it's about a killer that doesn't feel for his victims. What a novel concept.
You know. Yeah, I got nothing for him. I don't know. I'll watch it.
It's Fassbender, and he plays like almost a cold, emotionless robot that's just calculating. I mean, he's really stretching as a performer.
Speaking of Alien Covenant, Hugo was written by John Logan.
Oh no.
No, what do you mean? Oh no. John Logan is an incredible writer.
Yes, but I don't like these. I don't like the combination of things Someone should do a movie about a psychopath who just lives like a normal life.
No. He didn't write the killer.
Oh,
He's writing, or he wrote Hugo. He
oh,
wrote
all right,
Hugo.
shit. I don't know
That's
why.
and because you were mentioning Alien
It
Covenant.
was
You were
it was
yeah.
the mix of I thought it was like, oh, these are people teaming up. I don't want to team up again.
No. I don't think he ever wrote for David. I mean, maybe he wrote for David Fincher, but they never got anything
John
off the
Logan does
ground.
have a weird career, like in terms of
He does, but like at this point in time, when Hugo's coming out, he was writing with Michael Mann for this classic Hollywood film noir. That it doesn't have a title. The screenplay that I found that fell off a truck. It was gonna like it was like gearing up to like star Leonardo DiCaprio. It was gonna be about like all the fucked up old Hollywood shit, and like Michael Mann would have directed the shit out of it. I don't think the screenplay is like some masterpiece, but it would have been very interesting and like yeah, John Logan's worked with like a lot of people, and he's had weird career, some real misses. Nothing but swings, though. I think I could say that. I
could
nothing but swings.
um,
Yeah.
but he also-
Actually, you know what? I have to say, I love John Logan. I love John Logan. He wrote and directed a movie called They/Them,
Oh.
and it's important you say that title
Yeah.
because it's a slasher.
and
And so it's a very fun title for that.
people kind of hated it though.
I don't know how that same John Logan that I've been praising for the last 5 minutes wrote and directed that movie. It doesn't compute in my brain at all.
I mean that
I still to this day I don't know what happened.
that
You know?
could be a classic guy just doesn't understand the stuff he's dealing with. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it could just be that. And then also, just because you're a good writer doesn't mean you're a good director. So
Yes. Yeah. But even like the writing, it was just like baffling. It made me look at Scream 5 and I was like, perhaps I treated you too harshly.
that's pretty. I never saw They Them. I haven't seen it because it got kind of such a bad. But then again, his last. I mean, he hasn't. A movie of his hasn't gotten made since Alien Covenant, which is another movie I despise. But
Well, he went back to TV. He did a Penny Dreadful spin-off series,
okay.
which only lasted one season. But it starred Nathan Lane, and he went directly to Nathan Lane to be like, I want to cast you as like a hard-boiled film noir detective. And Nathan Lane was like, what?
That is one of those things though where you're like, why has no one tried that yet? Like,
Yeah.
Nathan Lane is one of those because he kind of, I think, because of the fucking Birdcage, he kind of plays the same characters over and over again. Like, it's either that or like, like Max Bialystock type guys. Like, but he totally has the range where he could play like a hard-boiled detective type character.
Yeah.
Honestly, Nathan Lane feels like he somehow was supposed to be born in like the 30s and 40s, and
I know, we just got him later.
just showed up a little later. Like, he does feel like a type of actor we just don't get anymore. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot he did the Penny Dreadful thing. But like also he did Skyfall and Spectre, which those have
Yes.
but those have like 7 writers attached to them, and like we only know half the names. Like
Yeah, and Spectre has like maybe more writers.
Yeah. and Spectre,
That movie has issues.
Yeah,
I do like it now,
God.
but it does have issues.
I've always been the Spectre defender, but hey. And this is his second teaming up with Scorsese, correct? After the
Yes.
which Michael Mann was supposed to do at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Aviator was developed with Michael Mann in mind, which is why Michael Mann, I believe, has an executive producer credit on the Aviator.
Yeah.
And also, that's the movie that killed Christopher Nolan's Howard Hughes movie.
That's right.
And you know what? You know what's weird? You know how like we talk about like the great like unmade movies.
Mm-hmm.
But then you hear something about like The Aviator, and then what's interesting about Nolan is it's very clear that he just took a lot of the pieces from his unmade Howard Hughes movie and just put them in stuff like The Dark Knight and now Oppenheimer, and it's like, so the Dark Knight trilogy might not have happened had his Howard Hughes movie gotten made,
Yeah, like sometimes stuff works out for the better.
Yeah,
You
it's funny where you go like, yes, we can dream about this movie that was never made, but also like the stuff still pops up in some ways. But I always find that kind of fascinating. Also, I forgot I guess he wrote the screenplay for Sweeney Todd. No, Not that there wasn't a lot of heavy lifting happening there. No offense.
No.
Rango, which I think we're both big defenders of.
Oh, I think people just like that movie. I don't think it needs
That movie
defending.
doesn't have a negative reputation. Although it didn't. Did it? I think it kind of bombed.
Did
It
it?
made money. It made money.
No. Yeah, especially for 2011, like 357.2 million against 135. That's like a standard success rate.
I mean, those two back to back. That's just that era where like you put Johnny Depp in something, you're getting at least 300 million. You know, like
Yeah.
he had that bankability. I forgot. Also, oh god, it's so weird. He has talking about like the fucking high fives and fucking gut punches of a filmography where it's like he did The Time Machine and Star Trek Nemesis in the same year.
Wow.
Two like terrible movies, where like most people would not recover from them.
Yeah, most people don't like Star Trek Nemesis.
If you like Star Trek Nemesis, you're a fucking idiot. I'm sorry.
It's the BVS of the Star Trek franchise.
No, it is the fucking hot garbage of Star Trek. That's my least.
There's one scene that doesn't work in the movie. Just the one.
No, there's a lot that doesn't work in that movie. That is my least favorite Star Trek movie.
I don't fucking know, man. Generations is pretty fucking awful.
Pretty terrible, but it doesn't cross that line. Like Generations is basically unwatchable, but
yeah,
it doesn't cross that line for me. And then Nemesis is just like it's bad and offensive, and it's very clear watching it that everyone working on it had a miserable time.
That's kind of why I like it, though. It's a miserable viewing experience. Maybe that's like a psychotic thing to say.
Diego, look. Every day there's a new puzzle piece with you. I cannot fucking figure out because of I mean, like we talked about, like you not liking Old Boy, right? Which like
yeah, but I don't think it's bad.
No, shut up. Look, I'm not gonna sit here like I totally get why people don't like Old Boy. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
I like obviously that movie's not for everyone. It would be ridiculous of me to sit here and assume everyone would enjoy that movie. You'd have to be a real film bro in high school named Matt Garingo to assume that. But I cannot put the pieces together that you can not like Old Boy but then like Star Trek Nemesis and Alien Covenant. Like those are movies that cross the line for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's just a dissonance with those.
Like the more
the science fiction aspect.
I cannot think about Alien Covenant without feeling bad. Like it ruins my day to think about that movie, even passingly. I don't think there's been a more morally repugnant ending than the ending of Alien Covenant.
Really?
It's disgusting, and I don't understand anyone who could defend it. No offense.
All right, that's fine. That's fine.
So it's I don't know. I think it's weird when you dress that shit. Like I think like Old Boy, which is a very stylized, doesn't really take place on planet Earth type movie, but at least it's not masquerading as a science fiction film, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think the science fiction masquerade is what makes it work for me, though.
That's insane.
I don't know.
That's kind of insane.
There are dozens of us out there.
Yeah. No, Alien 3 is actually the best Alien movie.
It's the best sequel.
I'm a really brilliant person. Sorry, everyone did their either Fincher ranking or Alien ranking recently, and like it turned into a fucking circle jerk of people being like, I like Alien 3.
No, yeah, no. They missed the boat. We were in the trenches when no one else liked it.
Yeah.
So everyone's late to the fucking party.
Yeah. And also, no offense, as much as I like Alien 3, it's undeniably a flawed movie. Like, so, like, I don't get the people being like, actually, it's a masterpiece. Like,
no, it is, but it's flawed.
Yeah, but, like, there's a big difference between loving it and then saying it's not Alien, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, you're never getting better than Alien, and that's fine for me. You know,
it's the thing where, like, I totally get people who put it above Aliens, right? Like, that makes sense. But I'm like, unless you're like, this is just a personal thing, like, I get it. But it's kind of like, Alien's kind of a fucking perfect movie, so.
Yeah. Is it more perfect than Hugo?
What was that?
Is Alien more perfect than Hugo?
I mean, I will look. Diego, Alien is kind of one of the most
I know that's not the fucking comparison.
of the 20th century. Fucking Ridley Scott doing back to back that and Blade Runner and changing all of culture.
I know.
Probably more influential than George Lucas, frankly. And then it's like, what if I never do that again for the rest of my career? That's not true, actually. Like Gladiator had a huge influence on the culture. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's a little less.
People still do the "Are you not entertained?" bit.
Well, no, it's beyond that. Where it's just like after Gladiator, every historic movie looked like Gladiator for a few years. Like,
Oh yeah.
and then like,
You ever seen Alexander?
oh boy,
Yeah.
I've Alexander is certainly a film.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it doesn't get defended more. Like, as even though it is a bad movie.
I think everyone's just kind of done with Oliver Stone.
Yeah, I guess.
Like there was at the American Cinematheque where I saw the re-showing, what the fuck, the rep screening of Miami Vice on the big screen, right? They were hyping up like other stuff they had coming out, and they were like, oh yeah, JFK with Oliver Stone in appearance, and every friend I was with kind of just looked at me, and I was like, no, I'm not
Yeah,
doing
that
that.
is
No.
I smile at JFK rep screening, and that's with Oliver Stone in appearance, and it's like I'm good. Like,
Yeah, I'm like, no, I don't.
I don't need to hear what new evidence he's uncovered.
I know. Yeah.
It's all just the same evidence, and he presents it like it's new. But what a fucking guy. But I just,
Also shot by Robert Richardson.
but also isn't like the uncut Alexander like 4 hours long? Like,
I think so.
and I think I'm surprised this is defended because it is, like, because of it being a Oliver Stone film, he like doesn't shy away from like the homosexuality and stuff like that. You know, like there's straight up gay sex in that movie, and I'm surprised more people haven't come around to be like, it is kind of nuts. He made a 4-hour movie with like gay sex scenes in it, which no studio would ever approve in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
But it is that thing like Gladiator had that influence, and I think that you can draw a line from Gladiator directly to Pirates of the Caribbean, which isn't a historic film, but is certainly an epic of its own kind, and
Yeah, definitely.
and that influences culture. So Ridley Scott quietly changes culture when no one's paying attention. But
So maybe we should just stop paying attention to him. No one watched Napoleon on the first go round, and then in a year it's going to change cinema.
yeah, you might be right. Although the sad thing about Napoleon and The Last Duel, which is a movie I liked, is that they both look like episodes of Game of Thrones. I can only judge Napoleon based on the trailer, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I want to say it looks like a good episode of Game of Thrones. I should stress, like, it's not. I'm not. This isn't like an insult. It's just, it feels like now Ridley Scott is entered more of a reactive period as opposed to a period where he's trying things.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I feel like he's been that way maybe since The Counselor. Like.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
It feels like that's his last kind of like big fucking swing.
Although The Martian very clearly had like him trying to be like, this is what landing on Mars would look like, like.
Yeah. That's his like steady win again with audiences, because he hadn't won them over in a long time.
Mm-hmm. So
I think it's safe to say I was won over, but
although I still haven't seen House of Gucci. So.
It's not as good as The Last Duel. It's kind of like assembled in coverage, which kind of kills the momentum of the movie. Because like The Last Duel, he kind of directs the shit out of, right?
Yeah.
House of Gucci, not so much, but the performance is like, look, fuck Jared Leto. He's really funny in that movie.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that everyone talks about with it.
It's really unfortunate how good he is in that movie. It's his good performance.
But also there is that Ridley Scott thing too, where it's like 3 years later, he's always like, "Here's the director's cut, and it's better." Right?
Yeah.
And like when you describe that as being like mostly done in coverage, it makes me think there's a better edit of the movie out there somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's already said, or someone's already said, that there's like a longer cut of Napoleon that they're going to release or something like that. And it's like, oh, okay, so maybe I just wait for that one.
Already, the movie's not even out. I'm on the Wikipedia page. There is a theatrical cut, which is listed as 158 minutes, and then a director's cut, which is 270 minutes long. Which, A, that's pretty fucking long. And B, why what are we doing? How do you announce both at the same time? I'm sure
The
that,
Snyder Cut changed everything.
I guess, but the Snyder Cut we still had to wait like a few years.
Yeah, that's true. Or maybe he's just trying to do like, because I don't know all the details of Kubrick's Lost Napoleon movie,
Yeah,
but I'm willing to bet Ridley Scott really likes Abel Gantz's Napoleon movie
yeah,
from 1927.
I wouldn't be shocked about that.
Because that is 330 minutes on average. There's a bunch of versions. The BBC Blu-ray that I have, I forget how long it is. It is terrific, by the way. You all should watch that movie. Speaking of silent era film and such,
That's one of
but
those ones where I'm always trying to pay attention if like the film forum is going to put it out. Like
mhm.
maybe I could drive up to New York City because I'd like to see that on a big screen.
Yeah. Oh my
But
God, I'd kill for that. Yeah.
well, isn't it so? Like Ridley Scott's doing that, but also Spielberg is kind of has the rights to the Kubrick Napoleon unmade Kubrick Napoleon film. Um,
Oh, that makes sense. I
every
don't.
few
Why didn't I know that?
every few years they go like, "Yep, we're finally doing it," and then nothing ever happens. So I don't know if it's
Oh.
if they're related at all though. But that's like that insane thing where like Kubrick like he had that big book of like the Napoleon stuff and like he
Hmm.
researched like what clothing historic people would have been wearing on any given day. Like that's how like detailed his script Bible was essentially.
Yeah.
Uh, but hey, we got and another one where it didn't get made, but then we get Barry Lyndon out of it. Like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I gonna turn away Barry Lyndon? I don't think so. Yeah.
No.
There's one of those where like as much as you want to see like what that movie would look like, it's also like well Kubrick's not around, so like why bother making his because it's not gonna be a Kubrick movie, you know.
Yeah, I like to bring up Other Side of the Wind again, which I do love and I like worship at this point, but it's it's different because all the pieces were basically there,
Yeah, they only have
minus like some
shoot
additional
like
stuff
a
later.
handful of things. Yeah.
Yeah, so like that you can do that,
Mm.
but
And then there's
just
this
an idea someone else had who's no longer around. I don't think you try to make their version. I think if you want to try that idea, you can, but you can't say it's Stanley Kubrick's Napoleon anymore. It is whoever takes it up's Napoleon
well
now.
the other is obviously AI, the Spielberg movie, which is based on Kubrick.
Scared the fucking shit out of me right now. Because I was like, what? And then you said the Spielberg movie. I was like, oh, thank God.
All right. Yeah. Oh,
Whoa.
someone is gonna try the like we made this unmade movie using AI. Like that will happen.
Oh,
in the
100%.
next
Yeah. And
and
it's
it
going to
will
be a disaster,
and
thankfully.
it
But
will make me jump off a fucking bridge. But
yeah, but I'm taking the filmmaker with, or not the filmmaker, the AI fucking sycophant with me. So
the
it's fine.
Spielberg AI, it's very clear that as much as it was influenced by whatever Kubrick would have done, Spielberg very smartly still made it a Spielberg film. Like it is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very clearly, which is why people maybe don't like that movie and are idiots. But there's a good movie.
Yeah, and if you're younger, don't watch AI yet. You might not click with it immediately. I didn't click with it when I first saw it for sure, but I was like 10, so
And there's like a window
different
where, like,
strokes.
you can't watch it as a teenager, but if you watch it too young, you're going to develop depression. And
Well, I got that anyways, so
and then if you watch it old enough, you're already depressed, and then you'll vibe with the movie really well.
yeah.
So, upsetting film. Do you know Ebert put Minority Report as his #1 movie of 2002?
That's
That's
amazing.
pretty cool, honestly.
That is.
In an era where people fucking dunk on Spielberg, but back to Hugo, which we should find
Back to
maybe talk
Hugo.
about.
Martin Scorsese's Hugo.
Yeah, his only children's film.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I remember the headlines being like, is this like his new mode to stay like relevant? And then like this movie ended up not happening, I don't think, but he was like they announced he was gonna do some movie about a serial killer,
oh, all right.
and everyone was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, he's there.
Yeah, Devil in the White City, which he's been trying to get made for like over a decade.
Yeah, it almost was a Hulu show or something like that.
Yeah, and there was a window where DiCaprio would have been perfect for it. Now
Mhm.
I don't know who you get, but they keep talking about possibly doing it. So at this point, though, I think maybe let's leave that one alone. Like as much as I like that book, that's also a book where it's essentially bullshit. So,
Mm.
but a Scorsese version of it would have been fascinating. But yes, but it is weird that there is a movie produced by Nickelodeon, essentially. Paramount with Martin Scorsese's name on it. And
Do you remember when you first heard about this movie?
you know what? Here's what's weird. I don't remember when I first heard about it, but I do remember when I first saw it. Because there's kind of a story there. But
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I knew that book. I remember the book. Do you remember the invention of Hugo Cabret? Like
I never read it.
it was a big door stopper. I guess if you went to school in my age and maybe you went to a higher end liberal public school, but that book you could see it at the library all the time. You know, it was kind of one of those that
Yeah.
it was there on the shelf with like fucking Harry Potter and shit. Like, it'd be like, you kids like this bullshit, right? Like, but it was. I remember that, and then I just remember at one point it was just like, all right, this movie's here, and wait, it's 2011. I'm still in high school, and like, I like Scorsese, but I'm not like, I don't know. I haven't gone full like film nerd by this point. As much as I am watching a lot of movies in high school, but isn't a part of me that like I don't really understand how big a deal it is that Scorsese is doing a children's film, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think I'm also in this era where like I'm just not watching movies if I think they're intended for children, right? Like there's a part of me that's like, well, I'm above that now. That window, frankly, only lasted a very short period, but it might have been in that window, so I wasn't like. And also, there just wasn't the online film culture that there is now, where we would have been sharing trailers of it or like talking about it the way that we talk about a movie now as it gets hyped. So it oddly flew under the radar for me because I'm assuming all the marketing for it was targeted directly at children. So like the marketing probably would have exclusively been on channels like Nickelodeon, you know. Um, but do you remember when you first heard about it?
I remember the trailers, and it does feel like a Nickelodeon movie trailer, like with the music and like the modern soundtrack, and like the comedic bits in the movie, which are very like whimsical and such, but like play very strange in a trailer. So I was like, well, I'm not interested in that. So naturally, I didn't watch it in a theater with the 3D. And in hindsight, I clearly missed out. I don't know if I'd even have appreciated it at the time, though. You know, like I'm kind of getting into Scorsese at this point. Like Tarantino is kind of like my gateway to New Hollywood eventually, just because I'm starting devouring like his interviews and behind the scenes stuff, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, that takes me to Scorsese and people like that. And then, everyone watches fucking Goodfellas, and you're like, this is the greatest film ever made. Then you watch his other movies, and you're like, no, probably not. He's probably got a lot of better movies. And he does, but it's like, it's still Goodfellas. It's not like,
But did you ever
it's not a,
did you ever have that period though when you're like a budding film fan where you're like, I kind of like that more, but I can't say it's better than Goodfellas, right? Like,
are you talking about Casino?
um,
Because we can say Casino now.
no, I don't consider Casino better as much as I like Casino.
Okay. Okay.
I'm talking
Okay.
about stuff like Wolf of Wall Street, or Last,
Oh, yeah, which only comes out 2 years after this movie, which is fucking, like, psychotic.
or like The Last Temptation of Christ, right? Where,
Oh, yeah.
like, but
Yeah, no, I caught that one a little later, and I'm glad I did, because as someone with my budding relationship to Catholicism at that point in my life, in high school, I don't know how I would have registered that versus when I did watch it and I was just kind of like done with religion as like an institution. It was like, oh, this is the best.
yeah.
This is a great fucking movie. I didn't have any mixed feelings about it representing anything or whatever. Like it does, obviously, but it's the whole thing.
You go through that phase where you're like, well, everyone says Coppola's best movie is The Godfather, so I can't say it's a different movie.
You can't say it's Peggy Sue Got Married, even though you maybe feel that at one point in your life.
So there's just there are those moments with certain directors. I probably was still in that kind of pocket at the time. Although as much as I did see it in theaters, but here's something weird. So let me tell you about this. So it comes out in November, right? That shocked me because I saw it in March of 2012.
Wait, what?
Yes.
How?
I vividly remember this movie-going experience because it was in New York City, and it must have been the last theater that was still playing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was I was in New York City at the time, and it was during the my father went to the Big East basketball tournament that was happening. Um, he was big into that, and I think that was the last year it included the Syracuse basketball team. I think it has changed since then. Um, I don't follow this stuff closely enough to say anything with conviction, but I re- here's the thing. I was shocked to find out it came in. Two things I remember is one, it was the Big East basketball tournament, and two, it was either the weekend of or the following weekend right after John Carter bombed, which was a big deal when it happened. Um, because I remember going to the theater and John Carter was still in the big theater, and they had like huge cardboard cutouts. It was like John Carter versus those two monsters he fights in the stadium or something.
Yeah. I remember that.
And that was like the cardboard cutout that they had. I remember going past it, and I remember because even if it was the weekend that it bombed, that story of it bombing was basically hit by that Friday. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was like immediate. Oh, this movie's bombing. Like this is bad. And I so vividly remember that, and I remember going to see Hugo. It's in a theater in New York City. So, have you ever gone to the movies in New York City?
No,
So
never.
if you go,
Not yet.
if it was like it had to have been like an AMC or a Regal. I'm not sure which, but because it's New York City and it's a multiplex, you basically like it's basically like theaters stacked on top of each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they fit it into the small amount of land they have. And I had to take like the escalator all the way to the top of the building, essentially. It was at the highest theater, and it was a tiny ass theater. And I think it was like a spur of the moment thing. It was like my dad's watching basketball. I don't really care if it's not Syracuse playing. Um, I have other things I want to do in the city, and it's night. I got nothing to do tonight. What should I do? And I was just like, you know what? I'll go see this fucking movie, Hugo. And I just bought a ticket. It was in 3D. And at this point, I think 3D, as much as like there have been bad 3D movies by this point, it wasn't like an ugh, like when I'm handed those 3D glasses, like what happened like a few years later, you know? I
Yeah.
think once Marvel gets in the high gear, that's kind of when
It's
3D.
it's getting to that point by that
Yeah,
by that area
yeah,
though. Like
I mean, within a few months of me seeing this is when the Avengers comes out, you know. Um, so it's like kicking up, but like that the Marvel era is when 3D just becomes like an afterthought. Like there is no consideration to the movie actually being in 3D, you know.
well, I have to, as much as I want to agree with that, we do have to credit the OG Clash of the Titans, which everyone like
No,
started
no,
vomiting and shit. It was so atrocious.
I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just saying that like there at that point there had been there had been Clash of the Titans and The Last Airbender, which were
Yeah.
like holy shit, what the fuck, like which almost killed 3D momentum. But I think less than that because those were like train wrecks, you know. And the story
Yeah.
about them was
Yeah.
they were all post conversion, right? That like
Yes.
they were,
They were not shot in 3D.
but I think what did more damage to 3D was movies like MCU movies where yes they're in 3D, but there is no consideration given to that, right? Like they don't
Right.
look terrible, they look fine, but you watch them and you go these might as well be not in 3D, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Avatar, which like is very much designed for 3D. And I will say it is very much not like Hugo, which was very clearly shot with 3D in mind. And maybe until recently, maybe the best 3D movie I ever saw in theaters.
Is the best 3D movie you ever saw in theaters Avatar: The Way of Water?
Like in terms of like the use of 3D, I have to give it to Way of Water.
Yeah.
I also, as we just did Alita, I am also the Alita defender.
No. Alita in 3D is fucking remarkable.
Yeah, in terms of the 3D specifically, and but I do remember this kind of being like, oh, all right, yes, 3D totally has merit. Like I remember this was being the first movie I watched where I felt that, which is kind of interesting.
I think for me it was Tron Legacy
Hmm.
more than Avatar.
I didn't see
Even though in
Tron
hindsight, which
Legacy
is a little silly.
in 3D.
Okay. I remember me and my friends were so fucking hyped for that movie. We went opening night it was a midnight showing, and I didn't even get home till like 4 in the
I
morning,
did
and I had
not
school. We had
realize.
school the next day.
I did not realize Tron had that kind of reach. Like,
It's a very it is what the original was for who's the generation before us? It's Gen Xers, right?
yeah,
Yeah, where it's like niche, but the niche people are really
I
passionate about it.
love
Tron Legacy is
the
totally that for millennials.
I love the original Tron, but even when Tron Legacy was coming out, I was kind of like, okay, I guess we're doing this. Like,
Hmm.
I was not hyped at all for that movie.
Oh man, I was
Uh,
it was a moment. That was like
and it felt
the Avengers was hype, but that was like Tron Legacy felt like generation
we just
defining
live in
as it
two
was coming
different
out.
worlds because I did not feel that hype at all. Like, it
Yeah,
honestly,
I think we
it felt
I
like that
think we
movie
do.
was dropped in theaters and then quickly forgotten, you know? And I knew it had defenders like beyond that, right? Like I've never been not
Yeah.
aware of the defenders of it, but I did not realize there was any hype around it upon initial release. I thought it was kind of a slow um, burn type thing.
No, and ultimately you're right. Like after that initial wave of excitement, like the movie did kind of like it didn't even bomb. It did like okay,
Yeah.
but they wanted like that Avengers level money like right off the bat. Before even they even had Avengers level money, but like yeah, it didn't. It kind of faded away, and then kind of like resurrected as the years went on, and now people are like, "Oh, you're doing a sequel to Tron Legacy without any of the Tron Legacy people? No one wants that."
Well, no, don't
And
worry.
Jared Leto.
Don't worry. We brought Jared Leto back. We got some.
Crickets.
um, but that's not happening anymore, right? Like,
And nothing's happening anymore. But they're trying.
yeah.
Jared Leto must have someone's family hostage or something, or maybe there's something going on his island with like a blood pact or something. Or
You know, it honestly, it's probably not even something like that. It's probably uh, we have to pay him money if we don't use him. Like
Mhm.
that's probably what it comes down to, embarrassingly.
Yeah.
um,
So naturally, you get one of the co-directors of Pirates of the Caribbean 5 to direct Tron 3.
yeah, but
What fucking hack dog shit,
this is that weird era
loser
though,
brain.
where Bob Iger takes over Disney and he approves movies like Tron Legacy, like John Carter, and like does take a few chances.
Hmm.
He got kicked in the nuts so hard.
He's like, I'm just gonna buy the
I'm
competition.
just gonna buy the competition. I'm never gonna try anything ambitious ever again. And then even the times they have tried, like they put their toes in the water even gently, it's like come to fucking bite them in the ass, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's
And to the point where they did even try to attempt recently. Like I haven't seen it. I've heard very mixed things about it, but like the Haunted Mansion movie,
yeah,
which could have been different. Again, I don't know. I've not seen it. They just like gave up on that movie.
yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I get July,
Yeah,
whatever.
like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Like who cares?
Yeah.
And
Like that's how bad it's got.
that is a weird one where it feels like there are already people defending it. Like
Again, two different worlds. Haven't seen that yet.
yeah. Well, no, like people are kind of like, I saw the Haunted Mansion. It was all right. Like that seems to be the reaction to it. And but
Mm-hmm.
all the people that have said that are also non-film Twitter people. So
Okay.
so
Normal people who have lives.
yeah.
Good to know.
But again, it was that I just so vividly remember the John Carter standee, and just being very well aware that that movie was bombing when I go and
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the best use of 3D I had seen up to that point, and I really, really enjoyed it. You know, um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it feels still kind of underrated to this day. Maybe I'm wrong, but it
No, I think you're completely correct.
yeah, it feels like it's still one of the Scorsese's people don't talk about a ton. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think people give enough credit that Scorsese essentially used a children's film to talk about the importance of film preservation,
Yeah.
which is kind of a madman move. Like,
Mm-hmm. And then also have a moment where it's like, which is historically accurate, but also be like, yeah, rampant fascism as a result of rampant capitalism destroyed the future
mhm,
and hope and optimism
yeah, well, I mean
and
that,
art.
that's the whole thing with World War One is that it basically destroyed everything. But
Yeah.
World War One, everyone goes like, yeah, World War One, it set the stages for World War Two because we punished Germany, which isn't not true, but it also
Yeah.
set
Yeah, both things can be true, unfortunately.
yeah, but it also set the stages for World War Two because it was such a pointless war, like everyone came back
Mm-hmm.
devastated, and nothing had felt accomplished, and lives were ruined.
Yeah.
It happened on a global scale, and it led to this weird like, well, where the fuck do we go from here type thing. Glad that vibe doesn't exist anymore. uh, but yeah, it was. I don't know. It still feels like Hugo kind of is an underrated movie. Uh, and I always think it's just fascinating. That's like, I can't believe Scorsese, if he can do a kids film this good, what can't the guy do? You know? Like,
Yeah. I'll just say I did an old episode with the buddies over at Talk Film Society with Marcelo Pico, and we were talking about Scorsese's best movies, and I said on some best days this is the top 5 Scorsese for me. I love Hugo.
really?
I fucking adore this movie. It makes me feel so good about life and love and art and cinema
Well, no, it does,
and invention.
it does do that thing, which I think Bob Dylan said it, and I've probably said this quote on the show before, where it's like, I think Bob Dylan
I'll
said
say it again.
the highest purpose of art is to inspire. You know, that
Mhm.
that like that should be what art aims for. Which, it doesn't have to universally be a truth, but I like that sentiment. And
Mhm.
Hugo is one of those movies where you come out of it and you at most want to start making movies, right? Like it has that
Mhm.
sort of effect. But if you don't get that far, you at least want to start like watching movies and appreciating art and the craft that goes into it. It
Yeah.
has that infectious quality.
Yeah, I adore this movie.
Mhm.
I think this is probably the best movie we're going to talk about this season on the retrospective.
All right,
Frankly.
we have one left that.
It gets fucking close.
All right.
I'm not gonna marry that statement, but we're gonna save that one
I'm
that
trying
you're
to think,
talking
what
about.
what movies have we done this year?
Last Action Hero, which also gets close.
Okay,
Final
Last
Fantasy,
Action Hero at the bottom.
Mimic,
Um,
no, Chronicles of Riddick,
Mhm.
Heaven's Gate, Alita Battle Angel.
Alita's probably
Now
the closest in shooting range of those movies.
yeah, apologies to Heaven's Gate.
Which a movie I do love. I do love Heaven's Gate.
yeah, I like Heaven's
I
Gate.
probably
Those last 3 get close.
if I
but-
was being honest, I probably would put Heaven's Gate over Hugo, but it's not that's not a diss at either movie.
yeah.
But I feel like as a apology, I would have to put Alita above Heaven's Gate.
That's fair. Yeah, I like Alita more than Heaven's Gate.
But
Apologies to the auteurs out there.
we don't normally talk about like great movies that great on this show, so we talk about some
Yeah.
good ones. But
Yeah, next season we'll talk about some stinkers.
oh yeah, it's been
We'll have to.
an interesting run, and we've had the weird thread where like this is 3D picking up from Alita, and I mean, and this is a lot. There's a lot in this movie about little robots, and you're
Yeah.
playing, are you a machine, and what are you? But
Yeah, how does that keep happening? We keep stumbling into these things.
yeah, that was a weird, totally unintentional on our part. Like
Yeah.
it was not.
Again, sometimes stuff just works out.
Yeah. But I don't know if the last movie will have any overlap. But
No, I think it's just a victory lap.
for you,
That
um,
that's what I'll say.
all right. Here's the interesting thing. Before we get back to the movie, when did you first learn of George Méliès?
I don't. There's no moment for that. It's one of those things where there's no moment. Like I just discovered it because like I think I've talked about it before, but like when I was starting really getting into movies, like around this era between 2008, 2011, 2012, like movie history and shit. I was like, let me see what the silent film shit's about. I discovered Nosferatu, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of the shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, what else does this guy do? Oh, there's other silent film era stuff. Oh, what's Trip to the Moon? So maybe that's also why I have such a fondness for this movie, Hugo.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like Trip to the Moon, the fucking Spectre, the Spectres, is that what's the Haunted Castle?
Yes.
That one. Yeah, that's like the first horror movie, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Some debate about that, but I think it's the most well preserved first horror movie ish.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like probably around then, 2011, 2012. But I don't like deep dive on George Méliès, and I've seen most of his available stuff, which is unfortunately not as long as his Letterboxd credits.
Box. All right. I talked about Letterboxd not including like online video on there, right? Which I get.
Mm-hmm.
Please give me a toggle that will turn off lost movies. Like sometimes I'm just looking for a number of like available movies that someone has.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a lost movie, I don't like just put it behind something so it can be a little
Yeah.
easier to fucking just figure out when a movie came out, you know? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
London After Midnight is like on like the top of whatever year that movie came out. That movie doesn't exist. Like so, um, yeah. Well, for me to talk about it, I think I learned about it because it was included in a History Channel documentary about the history of science fiction.
Oh.
I think I remember they talked about because it's very loosely based on From the Earth to the Moon, his trip to the moon, the Jules Verne story.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they used the imagery from this when they were talking about Jules Verne. But then I do remember them going into detail being about like, yes, this is also one of the earliest silent films. I can't remember the name of this documentary. It's kind of like there was the other History Channel documentary, Comic Book Superheroes Unmasked. Did you ever see that? I brought it up on another stream. Um,
I don't. I remember you bringing it up. I can't remember if I've seen it now.
it's like a 2 hour documentary. It was like the History Channel used to do these things, and they weren't just about like history or fucking conspiracy theories. Like they would be about
Mm-hmm.
culture. And I remember the name Comic Book Superheroes Unmatched. I cannot remember the name of the science fiction documentary. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, it was like history of science fiction. It aired on the History Channel. It had to be early 2000s, and it was like 2 hours long. So if anyone knows what I'm talking about, please send it to me. I'd love to revisit it. But it was an introduction for me into not just science fiction, but also George Méliès, where they talked about his movies. And I can't remember. I think silent film just kind of comes through like just academic study of movies. I think it's very rare that you watch that stuff kind of organically, you know.
Yeah, I understand. I am
Although,
a little different there.
although, when I was this had to be middle school era. I took a summer camp where one of the things you could do was like make a movie. You know, it was like they
Mm-hmm.
basically what it was is they gave you a camera and they gave you access to like Apple computers so you could edit it, and because you had iMovie, and you could just make a movie for like over the course of 2 weeks. And we would spend the first half of the day making a movie, and then we would spend the second half of the day watching a movie, and it would be like whoever brought in a movie, right? And
Yeah.
I remember we watched like The Matrix, we watched like Pirates of the Caribbean. Some girl who was younger than me brought in fucking Buster Keaton's The General.
That's so fucking cool.
I'm like, where's that girl? Like, what? I hope she's making movies still. Because there was a fucking kid in that class who was such an asshole. I still hold it
Aw.
against him to this day. He was like a classic, like, I just watched Scorsese for the first time. I'm a fucking teenager and I'm gonna make a Scorsese movie. And he was such an asshole. And because you would have to act in each other's movies, right? Like you would have to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
And he was such a piece of shit. And he basically just made a movie where he was like Travis Bickle, but if he was a cool guy, right?
yeah. Oh no.
And the movie here, I don't know if I should say his name. Fuck it, I'm gonna say his name.
Okay.
I doubt he's doing anything. He had a reputation, like people knew him as a person that made movies. He went to a different school than me, but I knew people knew him.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Dana, and he made a movie called like The Dana Father, essentially, which sounds like it's going to be a parody of The Godfather, and it was not a parody of The Godfather. It was just a crime movie done with kids walking around with toy guns. And, you know, hey, I was trying to make like a fucking ripoff of The Thing, so like it was.
Yeah, yeah.
We all but he was so pissed off because then at the end of the year we like got to vote like it's like a fun thing like what was the favorite, right? And some kid who just made like a ridiculous comedy film beat him, and I felt
That's how it goes.
he was so pissed about it, and it made me feel
Good.
he was an asshole. So
Yeah.
and I hope he's not making movies these days. And
I hope as well.
the girl whose name I don't even fucking remember. I remember this asshole's name, but I don't remember her who brought in the fucking general. I hope she is out there living the goddamn dream. I think her name might have been. Let me think. It might have been Greta something. But who fuck?
Greta, and that was Greta Gerwig.
That was the joke. But that would be something.
um, that would be. Now I have a little other history with A Trip to the Moon as well. So after I get into like more silent era stuff, I take a film class in college, and I've talked about the re-editing of the short films I've done in group settings, right? For group projects, everyone has like a different voice, so that was bringing that out. Before that, I believe it was before that, there was an assignment where we had to re-edit an old music video or a movie or a TV episode into a new music video, and I posted it on Twitter before. It's just been taken down, but I re-edited A Trip to the Moon because there's the black and white version and the colorized version. I re-edited them into one movie where Earth is black and white and the moon is the color version.
All right.
And they go back to Earth at the end. It was black and white, and I set it to Kanye West's Black Skinhead.
Oh, wow.
It worked so fucking well. But it's been taken down, so I'll have to re-upload that somewhere.
I will take your word for it.
Okay.
I like the color idea. If you had asked me to guess a song, I would not have guessed Kanye West, Black Skinhead.
I think it works very well with the movie, and I think it's me reading into the movie what is not supposed to be read into the movie.
You might not be wrong. I believe whatever subtext you're hinting at is definitely in the Jules Verne story.
Yeah, because the Trip to the Moon is just kind of like a whimsical like adventure, like a pulp adventure.
Although
story.
no, it's not. It's not the Jules Verne story. It's the H.G. Wells story, the other Trip to the Moon story.
Got you.
I can't think of, which is not technically not the basis for the Méliès film, but that one is very much a story kind of about colonialism, right? Like,
yes,
that was Wells's thing. Like, Jules Verne was very much, they talk about the two schools of science fiction, where Jules Verne was very much interested in the practicalities of how do you get to the moon, to the point where I believe in his story he even picked like Cape Canaveral as the place he would launch from because it was so close to the equator. And like, so like a guy figured that out way back then. Whereas H.G. Wells is like, yeah, they have I think it's called like carbonite or something like that, where it's like yeah, we have this stuff, it just makes stuff float, and that's how we get to the moon. Like, it's just this fake shit I made up. And he would use there would be no science behind it, and then he would use that to talk about his sort of socialist beliefs. Stuff about colonialism. So I believe that stuff is definitely in the H.G. Wells story, which I can't remember the name of that one, but
in my letterbox log of A Trip to the Moon, you called me a Trip to the Moon truther.
I was.
Is that because you are not a fan?
No, I was just fucking with you. Like,
okay, I was like, oh, okay. Is it because it's kind of racist?
No,
maybe
because you logged it and you're like, yes, one of the great films of all time. Like, that needed to be said.
No, I said it literally one of the blueprints.
Yeah, and I was just because you defend everything. I just.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not fighting for the sanctity of A Trip to the Moon. As much as I admire Méliès.
I was just fucking with you. So.
Yeah. All right.
Because it is one of those things where, like, like, it would technically be on like a top 100 list, right? But it's also like, we've moved so far from this type of filmmaking with like lockdown cameras and stuff like that. And
see, you say that, but there's some true hack shit happening in big budget stuff still, where they are just kind of like locking down the camera and having the actors like stand there. And like, I don't need to preach to the choir, but it's like, this is the bad version of like the original cinematic.
Yeah, but we are at a point where we recognize that as a mistake, right? Like, whereas this is how they made movies then. Like, it's not, this is just how it was.
But it's also like the imagination and the production design and the blocking and such, which is so much more advanced than the worst of what we have today.
He very much understood where you had to make up for, I guess you can call them deficiencies in just the practicalities of the technology, right? Like, you couldn't do a lot with the camera as much back then, but he knew where to make it up, which is in the more like fantastical sets and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. Like it's just when you think about like this is what a movie was for a while. I mean, it brings me back to my conversation earlier where it's like right now this I don't know how much if we were both in 1902 with no context watching this, like we're not thinking about it in terms of a movie probably, like it's that's such a new thing. We don't have that word, right? Like
Yeah.
thinking about the cinematic language on display, it's very much a gimmick of some kind. It's still like again, like this is the earliest storytelling. It's kind of like when you go to like video games and like like how like in Miss Pac-Man, um, there in between levels there will be little like skits and it's like how Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man met, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just them going like back and forth across the screen and there's like a little heart over them when they kiss. And it's like technically that is the first video game cutscene. Like, you know,
I never thought of that. Yeah.
it's like yes, it was and it was like invented just as like a little goofy thing the programmers threw in. And now when you think of a cutscene, it's like nowadays again talking about like hack shit, like really bad video games now will have like 10-minute long cutscenes where you do nothing, like and you
Yeah.
just watch a 3D movie to bring it back to Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Like it's I mean isn't that one of the I know one of the Metal Gear games, I think 4, there's like a
It
20
has like hour-long cutscenes and
yeah,
shit like that. But I
20-minute
mean,
opening where like you can't do anything. Like you just
yeah.
watch a movie.
Which to be fair, having not played the Metal Gear games, but being a big Hideo Kojima fan from his Twitter account, he seems to be a guy who at least understands the form, and is like he's utilizing it for a reason. He's not just
Always
doing it to suck his own dick too much.
he's always trying
Maybe a little bit, but
he's trying something. Like he didn't do
yeah,
it
yeah,
intentionally. I mean the flip side of that to bring it back to Final Fantasy is the criticisms of a lot of their games like post 12 is that Square Enix very clearly just wants to make movies. Like they keep like essentially doing film structures and then placing like video games on top of them, and it makes the gameplay kind of unengaging, you know.
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think Hideo Kojima at least delivers on the actual gameplay, even with the flourishes one could say he puts into his games.
Yeah.
Uh, Very interested in making famous people come in and look like themselves in
Yeah.
video game. Um,
Hey, look, you put Guillermo del Toro in a video game,
hey,
I'm gonna pay attention.
hey, wish Silent Hills had happened. Another thing where that
Yeah.
Silent Hills not happening though basically led to a survival horror revival. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so who knows? But yeah, it's one of those where like I feel like you have to when you do melees, it's like best to watch it in a context of like a classroom setting or like going to a theater to actually watch the stuff projected, in an age
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
internet is basically 98% gimmick videos. It might be hard to really appreciate if you watch like a public domain version if you stream it over the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But do you want to talk about the actual goddamn movie?
All right, Hugo, based on the book The Invention of Hugo Cabaret by Brian Selznick.
Yeah,
I should have
yeah,
looked up how to
it's
pronounce
like
that.
David O. Selznick, like great grandson or something like that.
Oh, okay. It makes it even more embarrassing that I couldn't just pronounce that normally. um,
David O. Selznick is his
uh,
first cousin twice removed, whatever that means.
I don't know. I'm Mexican. Everyone's a cousin until you're like 5 cousins apart,
Okay.
or whatever the relation is. So it's like family parties are like you're inviting a couple people. You're really inviting like 50 people.
His invention
But anyways,
Cabaret won the Caldecott Medal.
I should probably know what that is,
It's
shouldn't
for
I?
most distinguished children's picture book.
Oh, okay, that's sweet. Should I read the book? Is it like
It's
good?
actually it's really interesting. It's a big one. Like it's not like a little picture book. Like it's a pretty long story. Um,
Oh yeah, I didn't think it was like the Very Hungry Caterpillar or
no, no,
something.
no, but like like I would the one.
Although, if you're gonna do that, this narrative seems to be like appropriate for that.
But like
So
something like the Polar Express, which is like a very short picture book and was turned kind of into a feature length film.
yeah. No, that movie has had a renaissance recently.
Are you out of
I
your
am not
fucking
part
mind?
of. I am not part of
Who
that
the
renaissance.
fuck?
I want to make that
Who
clear.
the fuck?
A lot of people like that
That's
movie
those
now.
people are out of their goddamn minds. That movie
Maybe,
is
but
dog
they like
shit.
it.
Dog shit.
I am not part of defense community.
Brian Stelter
Anyways,
also
Hugo.
did the illustrations for those like the 20th anniversary Harry Potter books you might have seen on the shelf. They
Oh, okay, okay.
illustrations.
Uh huh.
So he did those.
Oh, okay. Yeah, everyone loves Harry Potter.
Yeah, no one has any beef with that series anymore, or ever did.
Womp womp. Anyways, Hugo's about a little 12-year-old boy named Hugo Cabret in 1931 Paris, who's lost his father. He lives in a train station. He keeps the clock working in the train station. There might be a little something there for Martin Scorsese to relate to, where he's looking at the outside world, but he can't really participate in it. I don't know. Did that any of that cross your mind while you were watching this movie?
No, none at all.
Yeah, for
My cat is laying right next to my microphone and purring, so
your cat also likes Martin Scorsese and Hugo.
she likes thinking she's part of this conversation.
Okay.
Looking at
Could we get a quote from her?
Baby Coda, what's up? That's yep. Oh, a little chirp out. I don't know if you heard it.
I didn't, but hopefully your mic picked it
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Anyways, I don't know. Like, I mean, many like nerds, film nerds, know that Scorsese like suffered like debilitating asthma
Yeah.
when he was younger, and he spent his childhood like isolated away from the world.
Back when like
and,
asthma like could really fuck you up, like
yeah. And it's not something that should be taken lightly now, still, but it's much more manageable now than it was when Scorsese was growing up. So he didn't really get to like participate and play around with other kids and other like childlike activities. So like he ends up discovering movies like as his escape, but also basically the way he like connects to the people and world around him.
Mhm.
And I couldn't like stop watching this movie with that in the back of my mind.
can't-
I'm like, oh, he is Hugo.
I can't relate
You know?
to that at all. Anyway,
Oh no, of course not you. Yeah, this isn't about you, Matt. Stop trying to make everything about you.
yeah, that's my fault. I have my own
Yeah,
biases.
yeah.
But-
Get out of here! Scram, scram. No, I did not have that experience. But if you want to talk about it and be open about it, like by all means, I'm not gonna.
we'll
Stop that.
we'll maybe get into it a little more. 'Cause it
Alright.
isn't. It's a big part of the movie. But
Yeah,
how are you feeling about Asa Butterfield?
I think he's great in this.
Yeah,
I haven't really seen him in anything in a long time. I know he's still acting. He's in that show, Sex Education,
Yeah.
which is a big hit, and people really like it.
yeah.
I've not seen it,
Neither have I.
and
There's also
yeah.
been Ender's Game, which comes out the next like 2 years after this. Another.
Oh yeah,
They finally made.
that book.
They finally made Ender's Game, even though the guy who wrote it is a piece of shit.
Mm.
He was in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I forgot about that.
That might be the last thing I've seen him in.
Really? You saw that?
Yeah, I did see that.
Ugh. Well,
I know. That was the last Tim Burton movie I think I saw in theaters. I was like, no, I'm good.
I'm looking
That's
at his filmography. He actually picks up his speed after that. He does like 3 movies a year for a few years.
yeah. We're just not hearing about
Yeah,
him.
movies you've never heard of, like
Mhm.
The House of Tomorrow.
But... What?
Never heard of it. Journey's End, British war film, which I've never heard of.
Your Christmas or Mine?
The Space Between Us, which I have heard of.
I've heard of that too.
I've never seen it. Slaughterhouse Rules. It's like some sort of comedy horror film.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Choose or Die?
yeah. Do you know the story though with why his career might have taken a certain direction?
Oh, he was a contender for Spider-Man at one point.
Not only was he a contender, but the story was that he basically got the role. That
Oh.
that he was the choice. That they hadn't like no one had signed anything yet, but they had kind of settled on it, and then his agents like leaked that story to the press that he was going to get the role, and Mark was so incensed they backed out of the deal. So he basically had the role and lost it, and then that's how Tom Holland gets it. So
Look, I love Tom Holland. It's not against him, but if that is like what actually happened, that's fucking so stupid.
yeah,
Insulting. aggravating.
Well, I think Tom Holland might work better as Spider-Man, regardless of how I feel about those movies.
No, he's not the problem. Tom Holland is my sweet innocent baby boy who has never done anything wrong as
Don't you
Spider-Man.
ever say
It's his
that to
movies.
me ever again.
Okay. He's my blood.
He's an actor. He's an adult man.
No, I know. I'm doing a bit.
I know.
I know tomorrow I'm gonna open Twitter and be like, Tom Holland accused.
He's literally 3 years younger than me, so he ain't no boy. Although I'm getting to that age now where anyone who's slightly younger than me, I'm starting to call kid. So which is
Yeah.
that's just been my dream my whole life, to get old enough where I can call people kid. So
Yeah, that'll be pretty good. That'll be
great.
nice.
He was in Uncharted, that Tom Holland.
Oh, yeah, he was. I hope, because I do love him as an actor, Tom Holland. I do hope Zendaya's like, hey, come meet my friend Luca Guadagnino and Denis Villeneuve.
Well, doesn't he's
And
got
here, look, some other people who make movies.
he's got a weird
Tom.
movie coming out, right? That people are kind of like excited about. Am I wrong?
Does he? I don't know. This is kind of sad. We're like, what do you think about Asa Butterfield? He lost out to Tom Holland. Let's talk about Tom Holland.
Not much to talk about with us, even though he's fantastic in this movie. And I find it fascinating that he like there's a world where like he basically had that role and lost it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but who knows? It might be the thing that helped his career, even though we don't really know what he's up to these days. But he didn't get sucked into that Marvel machine, so
Yeah, I don't. Tom Holland doesn't have a movie lined up I don't like publicly. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that's happened behind the scenes.
There's tons of other things, but
yeah, like everyone knows, there's another. He's doing another Spider-Man.
Asa Butterfield
whatever,
was on a Quibi original.
Oh well, he was making the big bucks.
50 States of Fright.
Oh, that's the Sam Raimi produced one.
Oh, okay.
Did you know about this one?
I think we talked about it. Although
yeah.
Sam Raimi's name is very well hidden on the page I'm looking at, so I think Sam Raimi maybe wanted to keep some distance.
Yeah.
I
think he directed two of them or something.
It's like different, it's like around the country, right? Like
yeah, every country or every state, every state gets its own short.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Sam Raimi directed one where this woman who's like obsessed with her golden arm.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he was trying to make it like funny.
Yeah.
And I think people just didn't get that. It's also just not very good.
Yeah. Sam Raimi's one of those guys where like the internet is like, we love Sam Raimi, and then Sam Raimi does a Sam Raimi thing, and people are like, what is this shit? Like.
Yeah. Like, I mean, people like had strokes when they were like, why is Doctor Strange 2 having these weird comic fade outs?
Yeah. Why is there a scene transition that's actually fun in a comic book movie?
Fucking. Did you see that? This is relevant now. Did you see that like concept art that Sam Raimi was trying to get like Scarlet Witch to become more like physically monstrous as the movie progressed? Or like her crown was gonna be like part of her flesh. Her flesh is gonna form like this skeletal crown that ends up like covering her eyes. So you're losing like you're physically losing her humanity as well as like her mind and her emotions. And I was like, what a great visual that could have been if maybe people weren't cowards.
Yeah.
But what do I know?
Did you know I cried at that movie?
I did not.
Anyway,
what?
Hugo, starring Asa.
Hugo, starring Asa Butterfield, who is very good in this movie.
And what's her face?
Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yes. Also had an interesting career as an actress.
Yeah, I think she's great in this too.
Yeah, what's she up to these days?
She's still acting, but it's like smaller stuff. Oh, she just voiced Nimona in the Nimona movie that finally happened.
Yeah. I forgot about that. That people seem excited about it, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah. I want to watch it too. I've just seen the clips. There's a really funny one because Mark Kermode really liked it. And then there, like in one of the clips they released publicly to promote the movie, there's like she does like a head turn, and it's very obviously reminiscent of The Exorcist, which is like
Oh,
Mark Kermode's favorite movie, and he's like, it's kind of like, and then
yeah.
Simon Mayo's like, oh, is it? Is it? Is it? Like,
I should check that out.
yeah, I should too. I was excited for it. Like,
It's
do you remember Nimona in the Tumblr days? Because that's kind of where
well,
it
it's
blew up too.
I remember it, but the weird thing is like I've had a weird arc with Andy Stevenson where they have done all this stuff and I've kind of missed it, but then like She-Ra was like this huge thing for me, so I
Hmm.
should circle back. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, because I never kept up with Nimona, but I do remember seeing the panels constantly and stuff like that. So I should go back and read the rest of
we need to
Andy's
fucking
stuff. And
rewrite history on Tumblr because Tumblr was actually this place where there was a lot of great creativity happening that uh, people just kind of ignored in favor of the times people acted dumb on the website. But
yeah,
in an age where that creativity seems to be getting snuffed out everywhere online, um, it's maybe we should recognize that Tumblr actually at one point did offer a lot of space for creatives. Uh,
yeah, that
like
would be
even DeviantArt,
nice.
I think is like falling apart now too. Like there was some story recently about them, which used to be like this.
DeviantArt was such like a genuine hub of art and creativity that I was just talking with like some family at one point about like, oh, like here's some cool art I like to see, and like, oh, what's the website? I was like, oh, it's DeviantArt, and then I said it out loud and I was like, wait, um, it's
Oh
not.
yeah,
I had to
yeah.
explain.
I guess you're right. I always forget that like some people maybe haven't heard the name DeviantArt, like 'cause it does sound a lot.
Hmm. But then you hear
Yeah,
deviant art, and it's like, wait, 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 wait,
it
wait, wait,
sounds
wait, wait,
like
wait. Let me
something else. And
explain.
meanwhile, it's just people like do like fucking like anime art, like
Yeah, yeah, and like even if it was that, there's not malicious or anything wrong with that. But if you're just talking to like normal people who maybe don't spend their time on the internet, it's like, what website's you going to, son?
here's my
Like,
whole thing with like the way the internet's going, and I wish I just like we're like there's like a lot of online media is not doing well, blah blah blah, all this stuff. Is it at all possible for the like to bring sites like to have a new DeviantArt and like can it be profitable without making all the money in the world? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because it feels like
yeah,
that's where the problem is that like all these people like invest in these companies and now they want them to make all the money in the world. Because I know that DeviantArt is owned by some publicly traded bullshit. And is it at all possible to have a website that doesn't need to be part of a publicly traded conglomerate that hosts people's art and it turns enough of a profit to keep the lights on, right? But
hmm,
uh, fucking capitalism bullshit.
yeah. I don't know. I think right now you kind of called your shot with like things are gonna get better at the end of the decade and next decade, but this decade's gonna be rough. Because it looks like every actual human being person is ready for positive
Yeah,
change, but the people at the top are like, no, we're gonna hold on to things even if it's gonna cost us money because we can't give in to
yeah.
your demands, and it's making everything harder.
No, no. It's that the lesson from 2020 is that like people are ready to fight for the future, right? Like that's what's
Hmm.
really happening
Yeah.
there, and uh, because the people in power will not take up these calls to action, a lot of the energy just has nowhere to go right now, and I think that's why it's going into labor movements.
Hmm.
And we'll see. It's a very frustrating time to be alive,
Remarkably
um,
so. Yes.
but
Yes.
keep the faith,
Yeah.
believe in each
Yeah.
other. Unlike George Méliès at the start of this movie.
Oh
I mean, this is a
yeah.
movie about people who have just essentially given up on life, which is an interesting setup for a children's film.
No, it is. It is. And I think I mean it's like it's a very familiar sort of narrative, especially for movies where it's like the people who are maybe think that they're at the end of their lives. Like your life isn't over until it's
Yeah,
over. And people need to rediscover that. And like the one of the easiest cinematic shorthands is for uh like artists to pair up old people with young people to rediscover the joys of life, not just youth itself, but like to see the world from a pair of fresh eyes and new perspectives, and it's like it's very obvious when you say it, but I think it's also very truthful as we get older to
It is very
remember
truthful. Part of
this,
what I
you
love
know.
about Hugo is that all of their attempts to be like, I'm gonna be the young person to re-inspire you, just make George Méliès feel worse.
No, yes,
Like,
there is
that's
that
what's kind of
too.
amazing about it is that like there keeps being these moments in this movie where it's like, oh, we have the picture. This will re-inspire him again, and he just ends up being worse and being like, Hugo, you ruined my life, you horrible child. Like every scene just gets the guy, and like it's really like they showed him a picture, and it's like, yeah, he has to lay down now for the rest of the movie, which is pretty heavy for a children's film. Of just like,
Hmm.
yeah, people can be devastated in that kind of way. It takes a lot to finally get things through. I mean, a big part of the movie is George Méliès straight up like going like one night out of anger, I burned all my shit, right? He's so
Hmm.
angry about it because of what the world has done to him that he's extended it where he's like basically threatening to burn the child's notebook and shit like that. You know? I mean, shows up with the ashes, like lying to him, but like still, like that's a pretty
Hmm.
brutal thing to do to a kid.
Oh, it is. It is. And George Méliès dies 7 years. Like the real person, George Méliès, dies 7 years after the movie takes place. By the way, so it's not
You
like
know
he
what
had.
the movie's oddly
Uh,
like? It's gonna be a
I have no
you,
idea what
you
you're gonna say,
never
but go
know
for it.
what I'm gonna say, but it's a little
Yeah.
bit like fucking what's his fuck Rod Steiger in The Pawnbroker. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? Where he's just like, but he's just
yes.
turned into like such a bitter man because of his horrible experience. Like he's like
Hmm.
taking it out on the people around him. Like it's a little similar because they're both kind of trapped in a similar cage, right? Uh, of just their
Yeah.
jobs. I do like the touch that like if you look behind Milius during his introduction, you can see like posters for the movies that have been repurposed for other things. There's a lot of
Hmm.
that in this movie. Really gear
Yeah.
heavy movie, which maybe I'm just wrong, but like it's not something I would expect in a Scorsese movie, right?
No, you know what it kind of feels like? A Guillermo del
It
Toro
does. It feels
movie.
like a Del Toro movie at times. It feels like a Miyazaki movie at times in terms of
Oh
the
yeah.
machinery.
And, if we're sticking to the machinery too, my boy Jean Pierre
Yep.
Jeunet, huge
Yeah.
gearhead.
Like I said, it feels like it would be made by someone who like grew up with like erector sets and shit. Like and
Hmm.
it's not something you would expect from Martin Scorsese. And he does such a fucking good job at shooting it. Like there's just scenes with like Hugo climbing up like in the clock tower where you get like the scale of everything and it looks so fucking good. And it's like, why
Hmm.
don't movies look this good? Like fucking you other fuckers. Like
Well, I want to keep hyping up George Méliès really quick, and then we'll talk about maybe some factors as to why other movies don't look this good, and maybe why this movie is on the failed blockbusters list. Um, but George Méliès, I think in the film they even referenced that he filmed over 500
mhm.
movies. About 200, maybe even less, exists in any form today. Not even restored properly, just like that you can find on the internet somewhere. That's real. That there are very few copies or ways of viewing his movies available to the public eye.
Like fully restored.
The destruction of his original negatives and his films, that is a real thing
Yeah.
that occurred. Yeah.
That's a shame, but like it's he's also crazy where how much of it is actually still documented, which is fascinating that like a lot of filmmakers like there's a lot of work of theirs that like we might not even know the name of, especially from that early era where it just disappeared. But there are so many like even just like
Hmm.
images that have managed to survive for movies that don't exist, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, some
Yeah.
you said like something like 200 are still around, like of the 500 he did, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, yeah. The number might be slightly higher or
It
lower,
does feel
but
like
that's
every
the
few years they
average.
find a new batch of them, right? That like somewhere they go
Hmm.
like, oh,
Hmm.
we got another one. But at least his first few movies, yeah, it looks like his first two may are still around, which is pretty cool. His
Yeah, that
early
is
stuff,
very
though,
cool.
looking at it, it's a lot like it's a lot simpler stuff that you would expect from that early era of film. So it is interesting to watch him evolve um, over the years.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, he's played by the great Ben Kingsley in this film.
Is
Sir Ben
this
Kingsley, excuse
uh,
me.
is this his second team up with Scorsese?
Is
Oh,
what
Shutter
else
Island.
did they do? Let me. Oh, fucking duh! Yeah, okay, it's like back to back then. Yeah.
There's a little bit of that. Like this is a weird moment for Scorsese, where he does like Hugo and Shutter Island, which like kind of feel like genre experiments, you know?
Yeah. Also, they couldn't be
Yeah,
any more different.
yeah, yeah. So like this is it, Shutter Island's his follow up to The Departed, and then he does Hugo like immediately after, which bombs, and then he pivots back to Wolf of Wall Street. So
Whoa, he doesn't. No, he doesn't do a movie between The Departed and
no, he
Shutter
doesn't.
Island. That feels
The
like a big
Departed's a
gap
weird
for him.
one, which we could talk about one of these days, where that movie is famous. Like the studio fucking hated it. Like they
Mm.
thought the movie was terrible, and then not only does it finally win him the Oscar, but it also made a shit ton of money. And Warner Brothers wanted a sequel for the longest time, and everyone was like, "Well, what the fuck do you do? Like everyone's dead." Like
Yeah, that's like
yeah,
the thing in the
and
movie.
the idea was it was going to be something centered around Mark Wahlberg's character was the idea. And I know that they tried to develop that for a little bit, and I think people were just like, you know what, no, like
Yeah. Well, I remember the premise, like, kind of being shared by either the writer or Scorsese or someone that it was going to be like Mark Wahlberg trying to take down a
yeah,
corrupt senator,
it was going to be something.
played
Yeah,
by
played
Robert
by
De
he was
Niro.
going to go to Washington or something like that. It was an interesting idea. Although to me, part of what I like about the ending of the Departed is we don't know why Wahlberg is there at the end. I think it's a little ambiguous as to what his motives are. Uh,
Mm.
maybe I'm completely wrong on it, but it feels like because you know he's a very hard to understand character throughout the movie. Where it's sometimes he's helpful to DiCaprio, other times he is like willfully obtuse to what DiCaprio is trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And is he coming there to avenge the death of Martin Sheen, or is he coming there because he knows Matt Damon's a rat, right? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
at that point, it doesn't matter because the cops and the criminals have become the same thing by the end of that movie.
I always just assume, since we're on The Departed anyways, and I don't know if we'll ever be able to talk about it like in full, but I always felt, and this may be just me being like much more naive at that age and then just sticking with that reading, like he was just out for revenge at that point because he's like, fuck it, everyone's dead, my life is over, everyone's life is over, both
No,
literally
no, I
or
think
figuratively
that
by the end
is
of
still
that
true.
movie.
It's just why is he there for revenge? Like he doesn't actually believe it's going to accomplish anything, but
Yeah,
whose
yeah, yeah, yeah.
allegiance is he's doing it for, right?
Yeah. See, for me, I love this. I'd never considered this, and that's a great way to look at that movie now. Like, I'm totally gonna rewatch it with that in mind the next time I do. For me, it was his allegiance to
And
the police,
my
and
that
like,
read on it though to me is
yeah,
like it could. I'm probably wrong because it sounds like that's not what it was intended based on what everyone is
I don't, I, who knows? I
saying.
don't know.
But also, like, why doesn't he show up when at the rooftop? Even though that's what Anthony Anderson.
I told you to bring
Exactly.
that
And we
movie.
know he at least talked to him because that's how he finds out about Damon. So why didn't he show up?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah,
There's something
he
there.
knew DiCaprio was out there. Why didn't he do anything?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
just what I have felt over the years. So
No, 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 no. That's a
yeah,
good read. I want to rewatch that like
yeah. The
right
Departed's
fucking
a good
now.
movie.
Like
I
we're here to
I
talk
know
about Hugo, which
The
is a great
Departed was weird
film.
because it got like everyone was like, well, it's not as good as Goodfellas. Like it had that reputation for a while. Because
Mm-hmm.
he finally wins for that one, and they're like, okay, that's the makeup win for not giving it to him like the seven other times he should have gotten it, right? But you watch it, and
Yeah.
you're like, that's actually pretty fucking great. So
Yeah, no, it was my first Scorsese, and it's been all uphill ever since then. Not in terms of quality, just like my life quality, discovering his movies. Because I think The Departed is. I've definitely seen it more than Goodfellas. Some of that is just my age, of course, and just seeing it first.
my
I don't know if I'd prefer Goodfellas, frankly.
single
I gotta
father
be honest.
took a date to go see The Departed and said it's
How
not
did that
violent at
go?
all. Was his pick
Oh,
for a Scorsese movie. So it didn't go well. But hey, man,
oh, they're not
no,
together
they're not.
still.
Uh, but hey, the
Okay,
man tried.
okay. Yeah, yeah, it's
There's
good to
also
get out there
so
if that's what
one of
you're
those
interested in.
crazy things that doesn't happen often enough where a children's film where it takes 10 minutes before the opening title comes up.
Oh yeah, yeah. More things should do this. More kids movies specifically should do
Interesting.
this.
It feels like this
It
movie,
is.
like there's a really deliberate attempt to make the filmmaking of the movie noticeable to children in the audience. Makes sense given the
Mm-hmm.
themes of the movie because it's constantly playing with stuff, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like there's so much like
Yeah.
movement with the camera, like and exaggerated even for Scorsese because he's like sometimes he's locked down like The Irishman, which is so perfect for that movie. A Goodfellas has that incredible opening that everyone tries to rip off at one point in their life or another, which is I mean you're gonna rip off anything, go for it. But this one, it's like it feels like it's constantly in motion, even if it's just on the
Mhm.
actors' faces, and that may or may not be true that it is constantly in motion, but it just feels
But there,
like it all the time. And a big part of that is trying to accentuate the 3D, which it was shot in, um, and I think trying to like, it is ultimately a Scorsese's
yeah,
spectacle
I mean,
film.
there's a lot of
It's a
chase
spectacle of
scenes
like
in it.
the
I
heart.
mean, the opening features a extended chase scene with Sacha Baron Cohen. Uh,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Borat's in this.
remember Borat?
Yeah, everyone loved Borat.
Do we
My
still like
wife.
Borat?
You know,
Like there is no me
I
being
don't know.
like Borat sucks. I just don't know. Like
Yeah, I think people still do. I
because
think I
also
still
they
do,
did the
frankly.
second one that also did fairly well with people. Like people seem to like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, just him like
Well, the staying power of that sequel is the supporting
yeah, they
actress
just
that's
found
introduced in that, who's just like
and
amazing in
she
that.
got an Academy
Yeah,
Award nomination for it, right? Something insane.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And I think that was like her first role or something, or like her first like big role at
so
least.
do you know who directed Borat, the first one?
That's a good
This
question.
guy named Larry Charles, who worked on
Okay.
Seinfeld. He did the Bill Maher documentary Religulous, so not all
Oh
perfect.
no.
Uh, he also did like The
Yeah.
Dictator and Bruno, the other Sacha Baron Cohen films. He's done a few things. He also did the Bob Dylan film Masked and Anonymous, which I seem to bring up
Mm,
as often as I can on this show. But do you know that there was
yeah.
an original director for Borat? You know about this?
No. Who was it? No, no, no. Who was it? Who
So
was it?
there was an original director who felt no,
Martin
not Martin
Scorsese.
Scorsese. Although this person, uh, there's a connection because this person fancies
Whoa.
themselves as an acolyte of Martin Scorsese, but the Borat filming it was too extreme even for him. It was too twisted for the man that brought us
Oh
mind of the
no.
Joker. That's Todd Phillips
No.
could not handle filming Borat.
What a fucking hack dog
Fucking
shit
guy had all
world.
talk. So
The fucking worthless, worthless man.
what what's he
Spineless
up to right now? Like I
worm.
know he's doing Joker too, but like
Yeah, I was gonna say that the Joker 2 that's gonna be a musical with Lady Gaga, which look, credit where it's due, it's the greatest idea I've ever heard in my
mhm.
entire life. It's gonna be dog shit because he's directing it, but hey,
I guess Brendan Gleeson's in it. Yeah,
really?
it's got a cast. Yeah.
Really?
It
Who's it
doesn't say, it
playing?
just says Brendan Gleeson and Catherine Keener.
Jesus Christ! Why are they putting all timer actors in these movies?
Because they all desperately want to be in a real movie, and that's the closest you can get these days.
I guess.
So
That movie cost $150 million. The Joker, the whole thing with the Joker was that it was so
yeah,
cheap.
are you saying we didn't learn the right lessons? Saying
Yes.
Hollywood learned all the wrong lessons, Diego? But toy movies are big. Look at Barbie. We're gonna have her,
Oh yeah, but those are
we're
gonna
gonna have
crash and
her
burn
cross
immediately,
over
so
with
it's
the
fine.
fucking micro machines. Cabbage Patch Kids. Why not? Well, kids love them.
Harvey Dent is supposed to be in Joker too. Is Brendan Gleeson playing Harvey Dent?
I hope not, because that means I'll have to see it.
I
Can't
know,
let
right?
you
Like,
not
fuck.
see it. He's got to be the guy on the show who threw acid in Harvey Dent's face. That would make more sense for a Gleason type. There's only
Maybe. I don't
seven.
know. He's fucking. Now I just want to watch In
Batman is like
Bruges.
one of the longest running comics of all time. And they have like seven plots they try for the movies. Like not even like it's the same like
I
four.
know.
Like even the musical one. Oh God!
No.
Remember when he shot the guy in the face? The joke,
You get what you fucking deserve, and then that happens.
Joker. I mean, look how
Brendan Gleeson was in Paddington too. He's too
he's
good for
great in
this shit.
Paddington too.
Oh, he's legitimately amazing in that movie. He makes me cry when he
Do
shows
you
back
know
up at the
that
end.
Brendan Gleeson played Donald Trump?
Oh, and that
Yeah,
fucking
the
thing,
Comey
right?
rule.
I know
The
exactly. There
Comey
was,
rule.
yeah,
Oh God! Can you believe that exists?
yes, I
I
can.
even in
I
this
can believe it.
awful world we live in, like. Oh,
Hugo, why are we here?
why
Hugo,
are
let's
we
go
here?
back to
That's the
Hugo.
question. I mean, that's the question. That is straight up
I
the
know.
question Hugo's asking.
Yeah,
Is this one
you're
of Martin
right.
Scorsese's more religious movies?
I think
Like,
so.
I mean, for one, there is straight up a scene where they're talking about the magic of movies. Hugo looks at the
Hmm.
drawing of the painting of God on the ceiling, and the projection light literally comes off of God's finger. Like,
Well, because Scorsese is practicing Catholic,
yes.
right? Or no? Yeah, yeah. But he's been able to like really straddle a line between like exploring that stuff and also not saying
Yeah,
Jesus is the
also
way.
not
You know?
saying anything about abortion,
Yeah.
which a
Oh,
lot of
oh
those
yeah.
Catholics tend to be really strict on. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but no, but like this, it feels like him being like, I'm making movies because it's God working through me.
I don't I
But
don't
I'm
know
not saying
about
like I
that,
like it.
but
It would be a little selfish to be like just him. Like he's not saying that he's like an instrument, right? But I think he is saying that
yeah, yeah,
all the
yeah, yeah.
pieces are that like that all the pieces of God's creation are important. Like when a
Mhm.
machine is arrives, all the pieces are there. There are no extra pieces. If God made this machine that is
Mhm.
life, there would be no extra pieces. Everything's here for a reason, including the movies.
No, look, I don't think it's specifically about God, right? Like, or at least like the Catholic like idea of God. I think it is like kind of movies as or like art as God, like maybe expression itself. But let's narrow it down to movies, just
Well, I mean,
because
they,
that's
they
what
do
the movie is
expand it
about,
to like
right?
it's not just movies in this though. It literally it's that's what I think it's everything, right? Like it's part of
Mm-hmm.
Hugo watching everything, which Scorsese takes from his real life, is watching like the pieces of this train station. And it's literally a movie of like
Yeah.
small pieces adding up, and it's like, oh, it was all there for a reason to lead to this, right? This didn't
Mm-hmm.
just happen for no reason, which is Ben Kingsley's character, George Méliès. He's like sunk into a depression because he has given into the emptiness of life, right? You know, he's
Yeah.
tomorrow, tomorrow, and tomorrow. Like he's embraced the sort of nihilism, and not in a good way. Like there can be a way to embrace nihilism optimistically, but that's not what he is doing. he's totally given into the darkness, and this is a movie that's trying to be like, if you're trapped in that kind of way, you ignore the world around you a little bit. And Hugo's a little bit the opposite, where he's constantly watching, and he's more just trying to figure out how he fits into it all. You know, he
Mm-hmm.
is emotionally shut off though. Like there is a kind of a there's the worry that if he remains as shut off as he is, as he just remains the watcher as opposed to like participating, he could end up like Milliers were like emotionally shut off from the world. You know, there's a lot of like
Yeah,
parallels
yeah.
between them. I mean, straight up to the point where like there's so many parallels in this where like the fucking kid they cast to play young Michael Stolberg straight up just looks like Hugo from a certain angle. Like they look very similar.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
uh,
It's like I think it's even like the haircut and like the outfit. Like it's very on the
mhm.
nose.
So
Um, but yeah, who else is this? Because I think we were going through this stuff. Oh, okay. I used to get these actors confused all the time. We were talking about Brendan Gleeson, but Ray
yes, for
Winstone's
like a
in
little bit,
this,
but he's
and Ray
good in it.
Winstone.
As a just horrible
Yeah,
drunk uncle. You know,
yeah,
fucking that scene's fucking brutal, man. Uh, just
yeah.
father's dead. Uh, there's a lot of mentions of time in this, obviously, because he's living in a clock. Uh, but there's I don't know if you picked
Mm-hmm.
up on the one when they show the funeral for Hugo's father. You can hear uh, Ray Winstone drunkenly mumbling something like "hard times, hard times." I picked up on that on this watch.
No, no, I got it. I got it.
I mean, there is a certain like trying to control time a little bit with this movie, like our limited times on this earth. I mean, even that goes down to Sacha Baron Cohen's
Mm-hmm.
character, who is constantly, checking his watch, not just because he's, an inspector, but he's also worried about what time has done to him, specifically his body physically, from the war. So,
Yeah.
uh, straight up, it's. I will say, I love this movie. It's a little weird that he's redeemed in the end because he is straight up sending children to the orphanage.
Yeah, yeah.
Like what he's doing isn't good. Like they needed to maybe deal with that a little bit, but not. It wasn't the most important thing on the planet. So
No, no,
did
but
you catch did you catch
yeah, I think maybe
Salvador
that's.
Dali in this movie? Did you catch
Wait, say that again.
Salvador Dali in this movie?
Oh yeah, played by what
Yeah,
Ben
well, yeah. Don't like.
Addis
I mean, there's
and
like him. Like,
yeah.
there's a few people like James Joyce. Like, they're during that big chase scene, right? Like when he's running around, you see them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the people there. Um, That chasing, by the way, there's an insane shot in it, which is pretty hysterical, which is Sacha Baron Cohen running into the place where the musicians are, and there's a perfectly built cake right there for him to run into, and he doesn't even come close to hitting the cake, and instead he crashes into all the instruments, which is a wild comedy choice. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
it's
like
funny.
ball jokes in this movie. He gets hit in the balls when he gets dragged by the train. It's just it's just interesting for a Scorsese movie that there's
No, it
oh,
is. I mean, it's him operating in family
mhm.
film mode
The
the
one
one
time.
time.
Did he say specifically this was like for his daughter or anything?
Not that I know of. He probably did, and I just missed it. And so, if someone listening to this is gonna be like, "You fucking
There
idiot!"
is
Like,
that op-ed he wrote that was basically a letter to his daughter where he was like, "Hey, like, you want to be a filmmaker? I don't even know if films are going to exist in a few years." Like, where he kind of like expresses like his worry about the future of film, you know.
whoa.
And but like it was ultimately an optimistic written thing, but it was him kind of being. I mean, this is the beginning of that era. I guess you know what that makes sense maybe with the gap between The Departed and Shutter Island. That maybe that was when he kind of became aware of the direction the industry was going. And because I feel like this around this time was when he was out there talking shit about like it's so hard to get movies made now, and it feels like less people were listening in 2011. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're like, "You're Martin Scorsese. What do you? What? How? What are you talking about? You're
When you
Martin
heard him saying
Scorsese."
that, did you just like accept it, like when he said it, because it was Scorsese.
Uh, when I was younger, no, I was like, "What? What?" I was kind of like hesitant to, I guess, even try to understand where he
Mhm.
was coming from, because like at that age, the world is wide
I
open at that
remember
point,
like thinking he
you
was
know.
right, but also like not understanding the like actual business models of it, like what was really happening. It's kind of like studios
Yeah.
should make good movies, as if saying that would
Yeah.
suddenly change things. But
Yeah, like if that were me, I would
yeah,
simply make them
exactly.
good, you know? And it's like okay, like everyone
I
believes
would
that
simply put
even.
people
It's
ahead of
not that easy.
profits, but
Yeah.
that don't happen.
No. But speaking of his daughter, I think I kind of made a joke about this, but I think I'm serious now. I think she's doing vital film
No,
historian
yeah.
research by basically doing
Heard other
TikToks
people
over
say that's
Cap.
hysterical. That just like you just get to see Scorsese being a bit of a goof. Um, because yeah, we don't get a ton of that. Although one of Spielberg's daughters is on Instagram, and I found her account. She's in Licorice Pizza as one of the waitresses at that restaurant, and I found her
Oh yeah,
Instagram as a
yeah.
result, and she posts some wild pictures of her father. I've shared a few of them just like because I guess they go clothes shopping together occasionally, and you get to see uh,
Oh,
Spielberg
that's
trying out
nice.
some different looks. Because I never thought I would see Spielberg in that context.
Well, Spielberg has incredible
He
director
does,
fits.
yeah, actually. Although
He
he used
truly
to dress kind
does.
of like a Slav, like from like
Oh yeah,
19
yeah, yeah,
from like
yeah.
1975 until like 92. Like he kind of dressed like a bit of a goof, and I don't know where it shifted, but um, yeah, but now he seems to carry himself a little better.
Yeah, like there's that photo of him on the set of West Side Story with the
Oh
light
yeah,
behind him, and he looks like
yeah.
God. He
It
looks like a
him
religious
and his wife
figure.
just gave like $1 million to one of the strikes, right? Like,
I think
yeah,
1.5 million to those places where you can like do outreach funds for both SAG and the
that's great.
WGA.
That's
So
great. Um,
yeah, that's
although he
awesome.
is a billionaire, he could afford to give a
And
little more. But
oh no, he definitely could. He definitely could. Um, Part of me wonders if that's in light of maybe an actor he worked with scabbing,
oh,
unfortunately,
really?
which is a huge bummer.
What?
Drew
Oh, fuck Drew
Barrymore.
Barrymore. I don't give a shit about that. But
I was I'm going through. That was tough. I was a little sad about that one. I know we shouldn't give a shit about these people, but that talk should look very fun.
hey, Drew Barrymore. She probably doesn't
Yeah.
even know there's a strike happening.
Oh.
I don't mean to be mean to Drew Barrymore, but this is
No, I think now you
interesting.
can be not overwhelmingly so, but I think you can get
I'll
some
try
jabs
not to
in.
because the jokes I would make would get me canceled. At least
Oh,
before the
okay.
strike. At least
No.
before the strike, because my jokes are just like I think Drew Barrymore.
Look, if you scab, I think it's open
It'll
season. That
boil
is
down
truly
to
what
I
I
think Drew
believe.
Barrymore's kind of a dumb person.
Oh,
People don't
okay.
like you saying that about people, but hey,
Mm. Some
she's
people are dumb, and some people are horrible assholes, like Bill
yeah,
Maher.
who's never done anything good, frankly.
Yeah, no, no,
Uh,
a truly
but
worthless
I'm just
human
saying,
being.
I gotta give Spielberg some credit for a guy who's also talking shit about the industry, actually putting his money where his mouth is, at least a little bit there, because a lot of other directors could be doing
Yeah,
that as well. So, uh,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I see a lot of people raising money though, so it's not like a total thing. Um, wait,
No,
did
no, totally, totally.
Fincher's
But again, it
comments
is like the
happen um, between something?
Fincher's comments just happened a couple weeks prior to recording this, or like a week prior to
Oh, okay,
recording
so
this, I think.
was it before? It
Right?
feels like it was a lot sooner, but I don't remember if I've talked shit about him yet on the show. But I feel like I feel
I
like
don't think
Fincher's
so.
comments are probably more reflective of what a lot of directors feel. He was just dumb enough to say it.
Yeah, because everyone knows the DGA did
Yeah,
not go on strike, and there was not a lot of the voting body that actually voted, so that could be one thing, but not participating is still a choice to
yeah,
not support. So that's not an excuse. And the fact that Spielberg donated to the striking guilds is makes me feel pretty
every
good. Again, I shouldn't get attached
every
like this,
director
but
should
it's
as a
good.
form of apology. So, because right As far as
Oh,
I'm concerned,
100%. Yeah.
I got laser sights on every director in Hollywood at this point, including Scorsese.
Yeah, no, I definitely have my
Including
guard up.
Scorsese, like just to keep an eye out, just to be,
Mhm.
because it's like, hey, Scorsese, you can talk all you want about the industry, but are you actually supporting people pushing back? You know,
Mhm.
he
And
could be.
not to soften that blow, but like he has been supporting like film preservation and like
100%,
there's a
yeah.
bunch of all that other stuff that
Mhm.
he has been walking the walk and talking the talk for decades. But this instance, yes, we should have the guard up just in
Yeah.
case, God
Now
forbid,
Scorsese
right?
is fucking an
Absolutely.
old guy, so I don't expect to see him out in the picket line anytime soon. So I guess Killers of the Flower Moon's about to come out. That could be a test of what he says during
Hmm.
the press tour for that.
Yeah.
But hey, a
Yeah.
lot going on in the world right now. Uh,
Too much. I can't keep
but
up with
there's
this
a
shit.
this is a crazy supporting cast in this movie, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You mentioned Ray Winstone, Emily Mortimer. Who like what else has she been in? Like I haven't seen her in a little bit. Uh,
I haven't
she's
either.
she's she's a ton of fun. She's Sophie in
Hmm.
the American dub of Howl's Moving Castle. Yeah,
Oh, that's
which makes
great. That's
perfect
great.
sense.
What else? She was in Mary Poppins Returns, which I haven't seen because it's directed by my
Uh,
enemy.
that was a movie that
Um,
everyone was like, actually, it's good, and I watched it, and I was like, no.
I believe that. Oh, she's gonna be in Paddington
Oh
in
boy,
Peru.
I hope that's good.
I also hope so because that the original
The
director is
original
not
director's not there, and it
there.
feels like we're all a little sick of the Paddington 2 being a great movie thing. So
Yeah, it's like it's still true, but it does
yeah,
need time to rest a little bit. It's like that can also be true. um, she was in something called Relic. I
I think
haven't
I saw
seen it, but
Relic. I remember liking
was it
it, but
good?
like I also don't really remember. I think it was a Netflix one. Uh,
Okay. Well, it's got a 92% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and it might be small enough of a film distributed that they didn't pay for that.
oh yeah, that was a
So
big story recently.
yeah, it's like I thought we all knew this. Like that
But I'm
wasn't a
also
joke. Like I genuinely
but
thought
I'm
we all knew
also
that
like, God,
already.
studios are dumb. Like, you don't need to bribe some of these people. They'll just give you a good review because they're idiots. No
Yeah.
offense to some people out there, but they're
Yeah. No offense to some people. Fuck them. There was that article about like the anti-critic critics or whatever. I don't remember the title, but it was like all these like influencers who are basically just like brand marketing extensions. They're not critics, and they've said they're not trying to be critics. They're trying to appease the everyman or whatever by harboring exclusivity and not thinking critically about anything and just basically becoming promoting tools
yeah,
for studios. So go fuck yourself.
yeah.
I'll name names.
Okay.
Like, sorry, I don't want to get into it. I got a whole thing.
Jude Law is
Um,
also in this movie.
Jude Law is also in this movie. I think Jude Law is a fantastic actor. Where has he also
Yeah,
been?
he was. Was he was in Captain Marvel. He was the villain in Captain Marvel.
He was. He's fun as like a meninist in that movie, which is a strange thing to say. I
Oh, you know where
understand
he
that.
was? He was out there protecting those secrets of Dumbledore in those Fantastic Beasts films.
Oh, I fucking
Yeah,
forgot.
got to be young Dumbledore. Those movies really paid off.
Oh.
So, um,
Speaking of having your guard up, all right. So he's
mhm.
in those, in those movies, written by a terrible person. He was also in a movie directed by a terrible
Oh,
person
which one?
recently. A Rainy Day in New York, the Woody Allen
Oh,
film,
oh,
when he had that
oh,
Amazon deal.
yeah. That was a weird one where it was like, I can't believe we're still doing this.
Yeah, and then Amazon was like, we can't keep the deal. We're gonna People are gonna start looking bad at Amazon, the
Are they
company.
suing each other right now?
They might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
Fuck them both.
Um, I watched Crimes and Misdemeanors recently for the first time in like forever. 'Cause I haven't been able to watch any Woody Allen for a while for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
That's an insane movie that ends with someone being like, "Yeah, you commit a crime and you kind of get over it." That's wild.
I wonder what inspired him
I
to
think
take
is that
that
the
approach.
last? No, he does a few more. Because Husbands and Wives is the one he makes with Mia Farrow that they're making while their divorce begins. And
Mm.
because of contractual reasons, I think they had to shoot 3 days together on that movie after the revelations happened. There are like a few scenes in
Mm.
that movie where they are basically where she hates him more than you could hate any other person on the face of the earth, and they have to be in a scene together. So,
Oh.
uh, oh, Woody Allen, how are you? How did he make that many movies? God damn.
Well, because they shoot fast and no one tells them no,
Hysterically,
basically.
his next movie is a French film with an entirely French cast. That's actually kind of funny, honestly.
I think life is fruitless.
I mean, the
I think
French,
Woody Allen.
the fucking French forgave Polanski. So,
The French
what's
sicken
going
me.
on over there? Yeah,
Beautiful country, but they
what's
sicken
going on
me.
over there?
Actually, no. I've walked those streets
Wait,
now. Sort of
but
disgusting.
like that thing.
I
You know
gotta
that
be
thing where
honest.
like Americans hate the French because the French like wouldn't support us during the Iraq War, and
Oh yeah, and that's like the
and
best
it's
thing they
like they
ever
don't
did.
support like our bullshit imperialist shit, and like that's why people hate them. And so like, you feel like you have to defend the French. And there's like the joke, like the French are all cowards, and it's like no, but like the French resistance, like they did a shit. So like a lot of people died fighting the Nazis doing that. But then like you like the French will then pull some shit with fucking like Polanski and stuff, and you're like, God damn it, what are we doing here? But
Yeah, and like, do you remember like when Black Panther 2 was coming out, and there's that bit about like the French operatives that are caught trying to steal vibranium from Wakanda, and then the French like government and like critics or whatever were like really offended by that. They're like, we would never take advantage of an African nation's resources like that, and everyone just kind of like, all right, if you say so.
there aren't countries
No evidence of that
there
happening in
aren't
the real
countries that
world.
still literally use the French flag. Like,
I know, fucking yeah, fucking French fucks.
aha, the French.
Yeah, if anything, Orson was too soft
He
on
wasn't
them.
saying.
I know he wasn't actually criticizing them
He was
in
actually
that,
pretty
but
soft. He was fucking
he should have been.
sloshed.
I know.
Doesn't do anything.
Anyways, for people that do want to visit France, it is a beautiful country. I was not joking about those streets being like really disgusting. So when I went to Cannes, it's like, okay, where the festival is, it's like wonderful by the metros, like, or whatever, the trains, it's like really nice. And then you turn certain corners, and I was like, oh, I'm back in like
Yeah.
East LA,
Weren't they like still
and
rioting over
everything
there?
smells like piss.
Because fucking
Probably.
the T tax went up like 2% or some shit. Like I don't.
There you go. I'll end my criticism of the French on a positive note. Whenever shit goes down, like tax wise, they will immediately
Yeah,
burn
yeah.
down Parliament, and I
We're
will
adding
have to
five
respect
minutes to
that.
the work week, and like they go nuclear over there. You love to see it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we should probably take inspiration from that, and then
They
take zero inspiration from their support of
they
sex
don't live
pests.
in as much of a police state as we do, so I get
That is
why
true.
on
That
some
is
level it
true.
doesn't happen here because we still have. I mean, what is it? They filed RICO charges against all those protesters protesting Cop City in Georgia. So like they're trying to label them as
Oh,
terrorists. So like we do rise up over here, but you get labeled as a terrorist. Um,
yeah.
that's a whole other thing. But
Patriot Act,
heck, I
Patriot
love it.
Act.
We let's make it clear we do not, in fact, love the Patriot Act.
No, yeah, that was a quote from The Departed, a movie that ends with everyone
Yeah, everyone killing
dying.
each other. Um,
Yeah, except Alec Baldwin and Vera Farmiga, who end up
yeah, it
bitter
is
and
funny.
alone.
We don't
So,
know. We don't know what Alec Baldwin's up to.
well, Alec Baldwin, I don't think he can process
I think
bitter. I think
Alec
he's just
Baldwin
in his
realizes
own
he's not
fucking.
getting that promotion. That Well, my political career's over.
Speaking of over, because they're dead, Christopher Lee is also in this movie.
Oh, how long after this movie?
I say that with love, though.
How
Christopher
long
Lee
after
was
this movie does?
awesome.
Hey, he hung in there for like 4 more years. So part of me was
Yeah.
wondering, like, is this his
Yeah,
last
he's...
movie? But like, clearly not. Like, he kept. So,
No. Christopher Lee, who definitely killed
but
people in World
also,
War II. The right
here's the
people, it
question. I
sounds
know for
like.
a fact
So,
that Scorsese's a big fan of those the Hammer horror films.
yeah.
Now, famously, when Christopher Lee would sit down for interviews, oh God, Christopher Lee, the last movie released during Christopher Lee's life was The Hobbit: Battle of the Five Armies. That's not good. But
Huh.
allegedly, people, if you sit down for an interview with Christopher Lee when he was alive, they'd be like, you can ask him about anything. You cannot bring up Dracula. Like, if you bring up Dracula, he will walk out of this interview.
Oh, I
He's,
didn't know
he's really
that.
bitter about being known as Dracula for the longest time, and I know that hung in there until at least the like mid 2000s. Like, he kind of
Okay.
didn't like looking back on that stuff. Now, could Martin Scorsese get away with asking about Dracula?
In my bones, I feel like Martin Scorsese could, but at the end of the day, I just don't know. I'd have to ask Martin Scorsese that
I
myself. Let me
feel
send
like
him an
he would
email
have
real quick.
talked to him about it at some point, but because was Christopher Lee going to say no to Martin Scorsese?
Yeah.
But we forget Christopher Lee's most important role.
Dr.
No,
Catheter.
you idiot. Ansem the Wise in the Kingdom Hearts games,
Oh, okay. That's a pretty good pull, too. Yeah, that's right.
who's the real Ansem because there was a fake Ansem whose Heartless was voiced by Billy Zane or some shit.
Oh, yeah. So, who kind of looks like Billy Zane in
Yeah,
that first
that feels like
game.
one of those ones where the Americans were getting like concept art and be like, this guy looks like Billy Zane. Let's just get Billy Zane.
And then there's a third Ansem in Kingdom Hearts 3, right? I haven't played it. I only
I
played like the
think so,
first
but that's
hour.
partly because like everyone's dying, like because like the other voices, it like the villain, who's the bald guy? I can't even remember his fucking name. Yeah, Xehanort.
Xehanort.
Get Norted. Um, apologies. Um, was voiced by Leonard Nimoy at one point. So
Yeah.
like,
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Never mind. It doesn't look like Billy
oh
Zane.
okay. No, there's the other guy kind of looks
I
like,
think
but
I was.
not bald. Like, it's like yeah, it's the face of
Yeah.
Billy
Yeah, that's
Zane.
right.
You know, looks like Billy Zane in
Hmm.
Titanic if he was also like a weird anime demon guy.
I don't know. Billy Zane kind of has that energy in that movie.
Titanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good in that movie.
Oh, he's great. That's a great movie.
What is Billy Zane's thing? Like,
Um,
why is he hung around? I don't have anything against the guy. I
I
just don't like.
yeah, no. I don't know either.
I kind of only know him from. Oh my good fucking god.
What did you just find?
Oh my good god. So I looked up Xehanort
Uh huh.
Arts too.
Uh huh.
I want to list the credited English voice actors. I'm
Okay.
gonna list just some of them. Uh,
All right.
Number one, Billy Zane, in parentheses, Ansem, Kingdom Hearts only. Number two, Leonard Nimoy, Master Xehanort, in Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance. Rutger Hauer, also
What?
dead, as Master Xehanort in Kingdom Hearts 3. And then Christopher Lee as Master Xehanort in Kingdom Hearts. Christopher Lloyd, I meant, still alive.
Oh no!
But
He's on the chopping
that
block.
train's a coming.
Oh no!
So Billy
We
Zane,
have to protect him.
the combined talents of Billy Zane, Leonard Nimoy, Rutger Hauer, and Christopher Lloyd brought Xehanort to life. One of the most
It'll be
memorable.
Christopher Lloyd who drops first, and then Billy Zane will have to outrun death, like Final Destination.
Maybe they have to fight each other Highlander style. The only one. Xehanort. What bullshit.
What a great game.
Those games, man.
Yeah.
Have you tried playing them lately?
No, it's been a while, but
The,
I did just get a PlayStation,
the,
so.
the burnout comes quick, but
Oh, okay. Well,
Dan
I
Doherty,
mean, there's too much
give it
like
another shot.
nostalgia.
Dan Doherty bought Kingdom Hearts. This is like from like 4 years ago. He bought like the Kingdom Hearts collection, played like an hour of the first game, and returned it.
Oh, Dan, I'm sorry.
Give it a shot, Dan. Um, who
All
else is in
right.
this goddamn movie?
Oh yeah. We should keep going through the cast list because I think we're kind of winding down a little bit.
Richard Griffiths, who this has got to be one of his last movies.
Yeah.
Although when does Right, this is a year after Harry Potter Deathly Hallows 1, which he's only in for like half a second, and they give no lines to. So,
I know. And he gets like such a great moment in the book, which again, fuck that
yeah.
writer, fuck them.
He does have
But
the
it's a good
amazing
moment.
moment in Harry Potter 5 where the letter arrives saying that Harry Potter has been found guilty of crimes or whatever. They just cut to Vernon and he just goes, "Justice."
Oh yeah. No, he is amazing in those
Yeah,
movies. Like
yeah,
when they gave him stuff to do,
yeah.
he was the best. I mean, like his fucking.
Sunday.
Yes, I was about to say no post on Sundays. Like, it's so fucking funny. You just take any single frame from his face in that scene.
Yeah.
It's hysterical. Or in Chamber of Secrets when Harry's escaping out the window and he's like, "You and that bloody pigeon aren't going anywhere." He was great. Richard Griffiths was great. I hope we don't find anything terrible
He
about
was
him
also
now that he's dead.
Magistrate Phillips in Sleepy Hollow.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Protects me from the horsemen. Um,
Shut up.
he's also he gives an amazing comedic performance as Dr. Albert S. Meinheimer / dual performance as the doppelganger Earl Hacker in Naked Gun 2.5: The Smell of Fear.
Wow. So he's just in all the classics.
And he picked the right movies at certain points. He's also
At certain
in
points.
Pirates of the Caribbean 4 as King George, which is the last moment of that movie that's good.
I don't even remember that
The-
part.
the
Fuck, that
first-
movie's so fucking boring.
The first 20 minutes of that movie I will kind of stand by. And I'm not
Okay.
going to say it's good, but it's fun because it's Jack Sparrow like running around Parliament. Like he ends up in Parliament and gets recruited by King George because it's like we got to beat the Spanish to the Fountain of Youth, right? Like, and it's kind of fun, and it's like, this is different, and then it just settles into being a boring shit movie. But
Yeah. First movie I ever fell asleep during.
really,
So, yeah. I thought people were joking about, like, exaggerating. You know, some people exaggerate about how they react to stuff sometimes. Not that we've ever done that before, but, like, that's when I was like, oh, that's a real thing that can happen if you just be that fucking bored and your body doesn't have anything to respond to.
I fell asleep during on multiple attempts to watch it, and if I brought it up, I would get in trouble in some circles of film Twitter.
Just say it now.
All right, Sucker Punch. I know people.
Oh, okay, sure, whatever, yeah.
People really like Sucker Punch. And they're really defensive about that movie, but
They do. I'm kind of with you. That's what I'll say.
so, which I'm not even sure.
As the Zack Snyder defender on this podcast, I'm
Well,
like,
as-
I'm not crazy
As
about that
the
one.
not Zack Snyder defender, that seems like the last thing that should happen during a Zack Snyder movie, frankly.
Yeah.
But I know some people like swear by that movie though, and
They do.
on a personal level, so I don't want to. But that part's
Every movie is a movie someone will swear by except for The Rise of Skywalker.
which we were both like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. And then you sit with it and you're like,
Yeah, it's not a good one to think about. Like,
No.
it really
Just
isn't. So
just move on from it. If you enjoyed it, just keep the memory.
if you enjoyed
Honestly.
if you enjoyed it, go live in the woods and don't bother anybody. It's a joke. I'm joking.
No, because then they retire. They have a family. They build their log cabin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in a couple years, their old friend shows up to their log cabin. They're like, "You haven't thought about Star Wars in a while, huh?" And they're like, "It's a peaceful life." They're like, "Well, they're doing another one, new trilogy," they say. And they get sucked right back into it. One last job, then they're out for good.
But you were gonna say let them get a peaceful life, and then you show up with a gun and shoot them.
Whoa, what the fuck?
I don't know
No.
why I thought that's where your story was going. I was like, what is this bit, Diego? Like, I guess it's just my headset.
Okay. Let's talk
You know
about why this
You know
is...
what I did? I conflated it. This is gonna be insane. I conflated it with the Paul F. Tompkins Cake Boss bit, which is for 5 people know what I'm talking about.
You've talked about it before on the
Well,
show.
one of the things Cake Boss's magical powers are is he has the gift of the second sight. He can see into the future and shit like that. And the host goes like, "Well, how do I die?" And he goes like, "I see you as an old man surrounded by family on your 100th birthday, and I appear and I shoot you." So,
All right, well, let's talk about why Hugo is a failed blockbuster.
yeah, it bombed horribly.
Yes, it bombed horribly, but its budget also inflated by like $50 million during production.
Really?
Yes, to the point where, let me see if I can find it. Graham King. Do you know who Graham King is?
No.
That's okay, me neither. He's a producer, and he compared the experience of producing Hugo to being on a lot of Ambien.
Oh, well. I mean, you think it's because there's an insane train crash sequence in the middle of this movie?
Yes.
Which is one of the best train crash sequences ever. Which also, they straight up recreated a real train crash image of the train. Like, that's a real thing that happened there, I believe.
Oh, okay.
You can look it up. But, yeah, it does look like an expensive movie, I will say that.
Oh, no, it looks like one of the most expensive movies of Scorsese's career, frankly.
That's interesting, because, like, honestly, like, Scorsese, like, he does have a reputation of, like, wanting big budgets, but he doesn't have that reputation of being a guy who, like, goes over like that, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I think
I'm willing to bet it was just, like, the technology and such.
Maybe.
Like, this isn't his wheelhouse, although he clearly, like, nailed it.
I guess he wanted to put I mean, that's probably why The Irishman was like, he's like, I won't do that for anything less than $200 million, right?
Yeah.
So, that was this, well, The Irishman technically made $8 million.
That's a very special thing. That's not we can't do that as a bomb.
Netflix could have easily made money on that movie if they released it.
Oh, no, they could have. Because even though it only had, like, very specific screenings across the world, I don't know about you, but for at least that first week, everything was sold out.
I was in a hospital for the first week.
Never mind. Forgot about that.
I did eventually see it in a theater that closed down the next day. I saw it on a double feature with a Hidden Life, and someone's cell phone went off during the goddamn movie. But there was a crowd there, yes, and that movie plays really differently in a theater, which is partly why I'm so bitter about Netflix not releasing it in theaters.
Yeah.
The crowd is something. But yeah, it must have been the 3D thing, because I do think this is some of the best use of 3D ever, and even the end credits I remember looking really good in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So, do they still make 3D televisions? They don't anymore, do they?
No, I think they stopped because they're like, it's stupid.
I'm surprised.
Kind of is.
Because there's still so many movies that are in 3D, like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's stupid. Nothing makes sense.
I feel like
But
there's
this movie's
a lot
great.
More I could say about this movie, but we're just not gonna, because we spent too much time talking about bullshits.
Yeah, no, it's a great movie. Ridiculously sweet. Isabel, the girl played by Chloe Grace Moretz, ends the film by starting to write down the story of the invention of Hugo Cabret.
Yeah.
So it's like a full circle thing from the book to the movie adaptation back to the
Oh,
book.
you mean like the ending of Game of Thrones?
You really want to go there? We can do this.
What, are you gonna be like, that's actually brilliant?
No, just in the hands of a better group of people who still cared about the show. Because I think we all understand that they were checked out. Like, they're clearly checked out by the end of that show, right? Like, for all the flaws prior, like, no one was in the driver's seat by the end.
You know what, Diego? The most
Hugo
important thing on
airs...
Earth is stories.
No.
And what do? I tell stories, so therefore I'm the most important person on Earth.
Hugo is released in 2011. Game of Thrones starts in 2011. It's all connected.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I am.
This feels like a weird...
That's as far as I'm willing to go, though. I don't actually believe any of that.
A weird shift is happening around that time, so... it's like, yeah, like we talked about this earlier, with it's the 1 year before Marvel, so...
Well, before the Avengers,
yeah,
Marvel is still like a thing.
Yeah, but like I said, I think next year's work gets solidified. So
yeah. But Hugo,
I'm surprised. I wonder why. I mean, like why didn't this do better? Like kids' films can kind of like sneak their way to a good amount of money. Like I wonder why.
Let's see. It was released November. It's like it's the right time for this type of movie too. I don't know. What was it released? Oh, it came out around the same time as Disney's The Muppets and Breaking Dawn Part 1.
Okay, yeah, the Muppets might have done some damage to it.
Yeah, Breaking Dawn Part 1, not really, but like that was a huge like box office draw, but the Muppets, going up against the Muppets is kind of a fool's errand at that point.
It looks like here
that movie had like a huge buzz around it.
The one I'm looking at here says, it's a week after. Oh, you know what? Look, there's like a weird like children's movie pile up. It must be the Thanksgiving thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
There's a weird children's movie pile up where it's like, not like Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1. Like, yeah, that definitely was going to suck up most of the money at the box office just because of the hype around it, right? But the previous week was Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Happy Feet 2, another movie. I believe that movie bombed as well, or at least very much. No, that movie bombed. And the next weekend, it's Hugo, The Muppets, and Arthur Christmas, which is another children's film that I don't think people remember, the Aardman movie. That's actually pretty good.
It's their non-claymation movie.
Yeah, it's one of the few ones they did. And then The Artist is also that weekend. And that movie is like a weird crossover hit. So like, because I think some like families went to that movie. And then like 2 weeks later is Chipwrecked. So there's a weird and then Tintin. Oh, this is a famous year for like children's bombs. Like half these movies I'm listing are like children's movies that bombed.
That's a whole season right there. We're not going to do that specifically. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like it's.
But like because the other one there's Tintin is that December as well, and that's the weird where they do Tintin but also release Warhorse like a week later.
Yeah.
What was that about?
God, I don't even know. Maybe these people didn't know what to do with them, you know?
Yeah. Same weekend as Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
Oh, that classic.
Possibly the worst Best Picture nominee of all time.
It's up there. I wouldn't fight that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movie.
Roger Ebert put it as Hugo as his fourth best movie of the year.
That makes sense. I mean, he's always the guy going to bat for Scorsese. So
yeah, Scorsese was on the show. They counted down the best movies of the '90s together, I think.
Did Ebert? Here's something I should look it up right now. Did Ebert like Eyes Wide Shut?
Only one way to find out.
We have to get an answer on this real quick.
3.5 stars. Thumbs up.
Yeah. That's good because I know it's weird. We kind of forget that like the last three Kubrick movies had weird receptions. Like The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, and Eyes Wide Shut had mixed receptions. I think most people know about Eyes Wide Shut, but forget that the other two had something weird. And then Scorsese goes and puts Eyes Wide Shut on his 10 best of the decade. So when he's on with Ebert, so I just thought it was interesting. I was wondering if Ebert maybe was one of the critics that also dunked on it. A lot of critics did not like that movie initially.
Yeah.
Which, whatever. People are weird.
Fuck them.
When does Ebert die? Ebert died
2013.
2013. Okay. So.
Yeah. I remember that vividly because I think it was who was the Gears of War guy? Cliff
Oh
Bleszinski.
yeah,
He
Blazinski.
has that
Yeah,
legendary terrible tweet about that. Yeah, he's like, "Oh,
shit.
it's interesting that."
Yeah, yeah. Before Bioshock Infinite came out, I think it was the game he used. A game that
Yeah,
was basically universally said has not aged well, which is a polite way of putting it.
yeah.
But
And some people didn't like it when it came out. Unfortunately, I
but
did.
you know what?
So,
Hugo is the last Scorsese movie that Ebert would have reviewed.
whoa, that's right.
Says Wolf of Wall Street 2013, but it doesn't come out till the end of the year. So
Yeah.
this was the last one for him and Scorsese. So Scorsese is interviewed in the Ebert documentary too. So or
Aw.
basically credits Siskel and Ebert as kind of like saving his career a little bit because he felt like he was a failure. So I mean, in a weird way, he was like in a Milier's place in like the early '80s. And then I think Siskel and Ebert held a retrospective on Scorsese's films, and he says that like helped him turn things around a little bit. So
Aw. That's nice.
yeah, both my cats are here now and they're playing.
Oh, okay. Hello. Do they have any final thoughts on Hugo or Martin Scorsese?
Otto's final thoughts is when is dinner, and the answer is 4 hours from now. You little.
All right. Well, that was Hugo. Our final official episode of this mini
No, we got one more.
retrospective. What do you mean?
We have one more official one.
Yeah. I was going to lead into it. I was saying
Oh,
our final one
I thought you said
is.
that was Hugo. Our final. Of
No. I was going to say our. No. I was about to
all
reference
of
the next
this
one.
in. This is riveting discussion.
This is the best. I'm going to leave everything in. I'm never going to take anything out ever
No,
again.
Diego, trust me, I know. I re-listened to the episodes, and there are about, I would say, a good 80% of the episodes where you very much leave me in, cut this part out, and you go, got it, my good friend, and then it's just in there, the weird, awkward pauses.
Yeah, but if you're driving, you don't notice them as much. So be driving when you listen to this
Yeah,
podcast.
that's a great suggestion.
It is, yeah.
Blame for something.
It'll cheer you up if you're in LA traffic.
All right, so what's left? What's the last one?
Oh, yeah, the final episode of the retrospective will be Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's the final official episode. We may do some bonus episodes for the failed blockbusters
Is
this
that
season.
technically our only animated one? Like we did Spirits Within, obviously, but that was like a weird like motion capture movie. So like
Yeah, that still counts as animation.
Yeah.
I think. Fantastic Mr. Fox is our single sole
yeah,
animation
pure
movie this season.
animated. So
Yeah.
that's interesting because we always talk a big game about all the animated movies we want to do, and then we usually end up doing one. So
I know. But I think it's our first stop motion one too.
yeah, that would make sense. I can't think of another time we would have done stop motion.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, most stop motion movies are gonna be failed blockbuster contenders.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
yeah, or failed awards. I mean, a lot of them don't.
or failed awards. Yeah. I think Fantastic Mr. Fox maybe could have been either or, but let's just do it here.
Yeah.
So,
But did Coraline win an Academy Award?
it was
If
nominated.
it didn't, that's
but
fucking. Oh wow, it didn't. Oh, no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. That's the Annie Awards. But it also did not win Best Animated Feature. What beat
no, what did it go up
me check.
against?
Up?
It's a pretty great
Up's
movie.
pretty good. But yeah. So like Up beat Coraline and Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's why this is relevant. So
You know what? 3 great movies.
there you go. That's a good way to look at
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah.
a rare year where they get
I can't
5 animated nominees because sometimes they only do like 3. So
Yeah, you look at the year after Toy Story 3, How to Train Your Dragon, The Illusionist, a movie I've never seen. 3 there, and then 3 in 2008, 3 in 2007, 3 in 2006, 3 in 2005. Like, all the way back to 2002, there's only 3
Looks like
nominations. And the first year they do it, 2001, there's 3 nominations as well.
it looks like they got more consistent with the 5 nominees now.
Yeah.
So that's at least good. Because that means, I mean, there's more animated work happening out there, which I think is always positive. Although, how did Marcel Michel
Yeah.
with his shoes on get an animated nomination?
Why did it get an animated
I know
nomination?
the shell is stop motion, but the movie's mainly live action.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I guess that's
I mean, I guess technically
Huh.
it's in there, but um,
Yeah.
A24 needs to be
I
getting some more awards traction. I guess is what that story is.
maybe, but I guess like so much of it is the stop motion movement,
You know
not
what's kind of
like the live action
the one Gore
environments.
Verbinski we would really do for like failed awards contender would be Rango, and that's like the one Gore Verbinski movie that won an Oscar.
Wow.
So we can't even do
That's right. He won best animated
it. Yeah.
feature. Well, apologies to Rango. And not fail Blockbuster. So,
Yep. So we'll be back next week with Fantastic Mr. Fox. I hope you enjoyed
yes,
this
no Rango.
rambling discussion.
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. Um, we're all over the place.
Now, like and subscribe. If you didn't like this episode, like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. Matt, my co-host, thank you for joining me again. Do you want people to know where they can find you? Or
Not
no?
really.
All right. Well, links down to our
We'll
stuff
figure
down
it out
below.
eventually. It's shit's dumb. Shit.
Fucking stupid. You're gonna Twitch stream
I
soon.
keep saying that, but then life keeps happening. So
Yeah, I'm putting it out into the universe. I'm gonna try manifesting.
I have to manifest so I can be like my boy Vox Aqua.
Oh yeah, there's more Vox
Yeah.
lore in the time of
I keep
like
texting
in the
Diego
times when we
more
started talking about
insane
this.
things. I'm finding out.
Yeah,
Wait,
maybe
wait, the
they're the
listeners
same
don't know there was
person.
a gap between the two after the recordings. They don't know that 3 days have passed.
Oh yeah, I know.
I learned
See if
I
you
learned,
can
I
spot
learned a
it.
lot more in 3 days about this Vox guy. But they're all positives as far as I'm concerned. So
Yeah.
yeah, fellow Lorax hater, rise up.
Oh yeah, if you hate the Lorax, hop on over to the Discord, which I haven't been on in like a week, but that's
I keep
okay.
trying to post more on there, but
Yeah.
um,
All right. Well, we'll just wrap up now. Yeah. See you
we
next week, Fantastic Mr.
we need
Fox.
one fucking extrovert in this group to fucking do something on the Discord because all of us are people that are like we will respond to others, but we're not gonna drive anything happening on Discord.
I know it's terrible. It's. I'm gonna talk about it in
And I can
therapy.
try, but everyone will be like, no.
I mean, hey, you never know.
No, I know.
You never
I
know.
know.
Yeah.
I've tried. I know.
All right. Well, we've been professionally unprofessional. Goodbye. See you next week.
Goodbye.